if you want to help out with the community a little bit, there is a link in the description that will essentially be a voting period for pretty much the same thing as what I'm doing right here. I'll leave it up for about a week or so before I submit results and everything, and just show you guys infographics of what the community thinks are the best cards of set 8 and what people think are the worst cards of set 8. And then I'll be covering over it in a more competitive video to see what people are talking about, etc., etc. If you kind of want to skip to the nitty gritty of the video, before that, just briefly, the cards I'll be explaining today will be in the basis of Infinity slash standard format for the duration of set 8. This will not be including in standard. When set 9 comes out, I will be doing a video where I discuss standard and Infinity format cards, especially with the new ones. So don't have to worry too much about that. The cards I'll be ranking today will be based primarily off what will happen just during set 8. So this will be all the cards from set 1 to set 8, if you aren't aware of the rotation, which I'll be discussing in a little bit. If you want to skip all the rambling and talking that I'll be going through in a little bit, I will put something here for you guys to just say, skip to this part. So to kind of go over to my little ramble that I tend to do every single video. Hi, I'm Cobain. I tend to do content whenever I want to do content. I'm not really looking at doing this for a career path. I'm more doing it for fun and enjoyment and to kind of like ramble. I'm a big fan of video essays and discussing stuff, and that's kind of what I like to do. So I'm hopefully going to set into the same boat. In terms of today's videos, in terms of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about, we have had some new stuff happen in Lorcana. We've had rotation. We've had things such as banned cards since the last video, which was the set 7 stuff that I was talking about. We've had set 7 champs, with it still going through for the next couple of weeks in the UK. And we've had quite a few different things. So I guess to structure it bit by bit, set 7 released. Set 7 was pretty good. As a starting point, we had a couple of decks which were really, really good and really blew out the waters, especially Red Blue and Blue Steel, which had an item build where Oswald became really good for a couple of weeks and then kind of died off the face of the earth because of the fact that it got hit. Well, not Oswald himself, but Hiram, Flavisham, and Fortisphere both got hit, getting banned as our first official banned cards within the game. I've already thought about my opinion on it. My opinion is that it's good. I like it. It's nothing to really say about it. It's already been done. Banned cards are good for card games in general because it keeps a healthy environment and a working environment. And if you aren't aware about how the metagame has shifted within these last few weeks since the ban of those cards, decks that were having problems beginning off with, which weren't Ruby Sapphire or Blue Steel, have all come into being a bit more competitive. Steel Song's really good again. Blood was really good. I want to say there's about 7 different color coordinations, which are probably topping lists consistently right now. And yeah, it's good. It's really, really good, and it's really cool to see. Moving on from that though, we've also had the announcement of rotation. If you're not sure what rotation is essentially when set 9 releases, which is Fabled, your cards from set 1 to 4 will no longer be relevant to an extent. There'll be another format called Infinity format, and also confirmed in set 9, over half of the cards are meant to be reprints, which means if you've already spent money on cards from back in the day, then those cards could potentially be quite, worthwhile and still be used. So you won't have to spend more product. You can save yourself a little bit of money on those cards in the future. And it's overall quite good. It's a good, healthy environment to have for this as well, I believe. It keeps the meta shifting, and we keep getting new things all the time. There's a couple of cards today that I'm actually going to be talking about, which will discuss the concept of new decks coming in and why I think they're going to be quite powerful when they begin. Especially some stuff in green, which, if you know me, you know I love my blue-green. So that's going to be interesting. Set 10 was also announced with no card reveals for that. I'm going to assume that with the Reign of Jafar Illuminator's Quest, Jafar's Palace Heist, I believe it's called, that there will be some things which will be quite good for it. So yeah, it's good. It's good, it's healthy, and I'm interested to see where the game is going to continue onwards. We have had a little bit of news about Worlds. Well, we've had confirmation about Worlds, and when Worlds happens, we'll be having confirmation on the DLCs coming up for the future, pretty much. I'm going to assume there will be around about September time to November time. Fingers crossed. Touch wood. Hopefully that's all the case. Obviously, with every positive comes a bit of a negative. And I think the community has been pretty vocal about it to the point where Ravensburger themselves actually explained it as well and have started to do things which will essentially help out with the community. That is a big thing with communication. If you don't know with communication, when a company is not really communicating with their audience, I guess a perfect example would be like Team Cherry with Silksong. People get really upset, really rowdy, and they just want answers for the most part, especially for certain things like tournament play. We've taken a very long time for tournament play to get any announcements for it, so I'm not surprised that people are upset. But to give a good side onto that from what Ravensburger has said is that they are now doing a weekly podcast on their Twitch, or well, a weekly like meeting, which is about half an hour to an hour long, and it's essentially going through different things, stuff that's like news-wise, and I like that. I like that a lot, honestly. It's good. It keeps people informed. It keeps the community going, and it's pretty good. Outside of that, I can't really remember what else was announced. The Jafar stuff, the not the Reign of Jafar, the Illuminator's Quest. That looks really good. I'm really happy with the fact that that has been updated into a way that's easier to obtain. So if you don't know what I mean, well, not to obtain, but to like keep hold of. If you don't know what I mean, in comparison to the first one, this is now in a box, which also comes with a bunch of things that make it easier to storage everything. Like deck boxes, the box fits everything in, it has a personalized playmat, the application has been updated so you can now see what is meant to be on it as well, which is kind of cool. It's just a good bunch of quality of life changes, and I've got to commend them for that. It's good. I like it. Outside of that, I don't think there's really anything else that was explained or anything like that, really. So, to quickly talk about the format on how I do my ratings, as we are going to be going into that now, seeing that every card in set 8 has been revealed and I wish to discuss about it. My rankings are essentially a rank 1 to 5. 1, I think, are cards that are not really going to be played or played at all. 5, I believe, is going to be an auto-include. I don't think, sometimes it's not as a 4 of, but I can automatically see the card being used because of how good it is. 4 will essentially be very close to that point, or be a viable tech option for different things. So, for example, how Queen is quite a tech option, or Robin Hood is quite a tech option in Steel Song in the point, where you'll see Robin Hood come in and come out of the meta depending on how the meta goes, or how Queen will do the same thing depending on how you want to build your deck. There is actually a couple of cards within this one that also kind of fits the mold and fits the same thing as that. So, but also in the last video as well, one thing that I did get some criticism for in terms of the creation of the video is how easy it was to read the cards, everything that was done from there. So what I've done is I've changed the format a little bit, and things should be a lot easier to hopefully read and be able to see what cards I'm discussing when we're talking about it. When I'm talking about my set 1 cards or my 1-star cards, for the most part, that will be very vanilla based cards that probably won't have good effects, or cards that have some kind of downside. I have done some thought process about them as I was creating the infographic again, my initial thoughts. So some things did kind of change when I was looking at them again, and some things kind of remain the same, but I will be discussing that with you when I get back to recording it tomorrow. So anyway, let's start talking about Amber when I record it tomorrow. Okay, so surprise, quite costume change, right? No, I'm recording this as of the day after from the intro. If you have skipped over to this part and you don't know how the ranking system works, essentially I rank cards from 1 to 5, and we'll start off essentially by showing off the cards from Amber through to all the normal colors, and then we'll go through the multicolors together. Starting off with all the worst cards and going over to the better ones. I will comment on some of them. I will say a couple of things, but It's nothing like a bad thing, for example. um, or I will just say which cards are really playable, which cards are not. And so, yeah, here you go. Here's all the amber ones. So, pretty much starting from the get go with the 1-star cards, we have the Colonel, or the Colonel. While you have 3 Wolf Puppies in play, this character gets +2 power and +2 lore. So, the main thing is that the idea is that it's meant to be there after you play a bunch of puppies to essentially help you finish out the game, close out the game if possible. And I will admit, he's not like a bad card, and he's pretty much a staple in the puppy deck. The problem is that puppies is really flimsy, and I don't think he fits exactly within the deck. I think there's certain bits that I'm missing, especially card draw. Card draw and card advantage is really bad in puppies, because the only things you're really going to be looking for is if you want to go down the line of the Chicha route, you can include Chicha in and use stuff like there's some of the new puppy support to essentially put puppies into your Inkwell and maybe trading them in to essentially plus by drawing cards of Chicha, which at some point kind of becomes irrelevant, or at some point your opponent will board wipe you and you just feel bad. The other route as well that you can go down is the Rapunzel route. Obviously, Rapunzel gifted with healing, very good card, really powerful. If you want, you can use the Roger Radcliffe line, where you use Roger Radcliffe and you use the 5-drop Rapunzel from set 2, where you just go, okay, I'll trade in a couple of things, heal a couple of bits from all my puppies, and then draw cards equal back up with the Rapunzel. And that's not a bad line either. But the problem is that the deck itself needs so many card draw engines to actually get itself going. It doesn't really have much in terms of disruption. You can put in Let It Go. That is a pretty bog standard one. You can put in Hades, but overall, I think like if you're playing a puppy deck, expect to not do well unless you draw like really well and you understand how to trade board correctly. So um, Dewey, pretty obvious, and I will say this for quite a lot of them. I just don't like vanilla cards. Vanilla cards, especially with this kind of stat line, is not good. For a 4 mana, you want a 4/5 usually. The reason why it's a 4/4, however, from a design aspect, from what I can tell, is that Huey, Dewey, Louie do actually have a few cards in set 3, I believe, as well. Where if you have a Louie, Huey, and Dewey on the board, you can draw 3 cards whenever I think it's Louis that quests. I might be incorrect there though, just to say. And this kind of adds on to the name convention. So you play a blue yellow deck to essentially try and make that work. It's alright. The problem is though is that other draw engines are just better within the game right now. But I will say, as a bit of a spoiler alert, the other 2 characters, Louis and Huey, are actually better than Dewey in a fair chunk. So I guess the reason being is because you don't want to have 3 cards that are really good. The reason why I put it down as a one-off, however, or as a 1, however, is that on top of the capability of it just being a vanilla, I don't like the fact that it's relying on other cards to essentially, or it's kind of like the other cards are reliant on it to be on the deck to essentially make them work. Whereas for the blue stuff, that is, not the yellow stuff, the other yellow cards can be ran outside of it, and that's the only kind of saving grace the card has. It just doesn't really work. So moving on to Jim Deere, the bodyguard. We've seen this card. We've already seen this card in the Prince, I believe, who is a 2 mana uninkable from the last set, which is a 0/5 with bodyguard. I don't think bodyguard's going to make it. I don't think bodyguard's a good build. The problem with bodyguard is that it needs a card to force your opponents to attack you. So it feels something like in green, where whenever you quest with a bodyguarded unit, you can give an opponent's character reckless for later on in the game. Then yeah, okay, that would be good. That would be kind of cool actually. That would give you an incentive to run bodyguards and Chief Bogo. But I, as a spoiler alert, don't think bodyguards is good. I think that other decks are quicker and better. Bodyguard in general, the reason you run it is because it's a kind of like a safe option for board states. if you're playing against a less aggressive deck, having a bodyguard in the build does help with that. If you're playing against a more aggressive deck, your bodyguard needs to have some exponentially good effect on the side. So that's the reason why people ran Bakayota from the last set in Purple Steel. Not as like many. Some people ran it as a 4 of, some people ran it as a 1 of, and most decks ran it as none, from what I remember. Because it was there to essentially cause a roadblock for other decks that were just wanting to maintain board effect. The problem is that when you have a deck such as Churner Dog running around quite a lot now, especially, and other decks like Steel Song, it's not as reliable because Steel Song just gets past the bodyguard and he just ignore the bodyguard as much as possible, whereas Churner Dog just doesn't care. They just go, they just swing. So that's another thing. Jean, whenever this character quests, you may remove up to 2 damage from chosen character. It's cute. I don't like it. We've already seen his cards multiple times throughout different iterations of the build. So, well, not the build of the game. We've had, from what I remember, the rabbit. We've had Timon, I think it is, from set 1. That's, I think that on place remove up to 2 damage. But the problem is when you have a quest that removes up to 2 damage, the only reason it becomes kind of viable is if you do Jean turn 1, you then play Mother Gothel turn 2. So this card probably only fits into red-blue. Not red-blue, sorry, into amber-blue. Amber-red, sorry. Where you use him to essentially heal off the overstated cards to make him kind of viable. So you turn Mother Gothel into a Mrs. Smee to an extent, and you can heal her later after you trade in, which isn't bad, and it can be teched in as that as an option. The problem is I don't think Amber Ruby is good, and I don't, outside of maybe Mufasa. I think the Mufasa build is the only one that's kind of viable, and it does actually have a couple of cards in the set, which is cool. But I don't personally agree with running a card like this in a build that I don't think is that good at the moment, and I don't think is going to maintain being good within the duration of just set 8. I also forgot to mention that this whole video is the idea of all of these cards being from to the end of set 8, where store champs come in and everything, not during set 9, not during standard. I will probably discuss them later on in a video where I talk about standard, but that'll be it. But moving on to our second group of cards. So we have Trials and Tribulations. Chosen character gets -4 power until the start of your next turn. There's only one deck it might be ran in, and I don't think it's even that good because there are better options. And that would be the Emerald Amber Under the Sea deck. So the problem with this card in particular is that there is Painting the Roses Red, which is just better. If I recall correctly, it draws you a card, so it cantrips itself, and it also gives 2 characters -1, which is more relevant on a board state where most cards in the game right now are pretty much 3 damage. Or like a good chunk of cards that you're wanting to run are 3 damage cards. So, yeah. Moving on to Joey. Whenever this card quests, you may remove up to 1 damage from each character with Bodyguard. It's a 3-mana 3/3 that may heal like a bunch, but I don't think it's good. I don't think Bodyguard's good. So, and also talking about Bodyguard, we have Calhoun here, we have Ellen DeGeneres. Chief Bogo just does her job better. Chief Bogo is kind of like the only exception, or one of the only exceptions of a bodyguard that does a really, really good effect on top of it. So it's kind of worth to run Chief Bogo. Oh, and Donald Duck. That's the other one off the top of my head. Those are the only cards that are really good because they're low curve, they're good for aggressive decks, and this is a card that wants to play for the long game. It doesn't even get hit by Chief Bogo, so it's not good to include it. So, Antonio's Jaguar. Whenever you play this character, if you have a character named Antonio Madrigal in play, you gain 1 lore. It's cute. It's a 1/4. You probably like hit into Mr. Smee once and then heal it with Rapunzel, something like that. It's kind of cute. The thing is that I think that songs in spoiler alert, this is going to essentially be songs for Amber Amethyst. I don't think it's a good build. I think that's an aggressive build, 100%. I just don't think it's a good build. The problem is that the songs themselves in both Amethyst and Amber are not disruption spells, or they're not really disruption songs. Because the colors, kind of similar to Sapphire, don't inherently work around the concept of board control. This is the reason why a lot of decks that are, Emerald, Steel, Ruby do successfully because of the fact they have some way to interact with your opponent's board quite well. Purple is a good one, or Amethyst is a good one because it has answers on the play. What I mean by this is that you have characters like Madam Mim Fox, you have Hades from the blue build, which you can just keep recurring with Madam Mim Fox, hence why Bloodler is a thing. Or it will bounce stuff that gives you lore, or it has answers. Whereas if you're basically drawing a bunch of cards in Amber and Amethyst from their songs, you don't really have answers to play against your opponent's board. You only just have, oh, I'm drawing cards. Oh, wait, I've done nothing. There is a card in the multicolors which is like Alma. She's kind of cute as a card concept. Do I think she's good? I'll get to that later. Moving on to our 2-star cards, and we have quite a few more actually. So we have Mirror by Madrigal. So whenever you play as character, you may reveal a song in your hand to gain 1 lore. I think it's a 2 just because it could work in Steel Song as a cute cantrip way of getting just lore early on in the game. I don't think it's going to be good. I don't think it's going to be runnable. I think it's just a cute tech option. And it's in a similar boat to Tiana here. Whenever you play a song, each opposing character gets 1 to start your next turn. So the cool thing about this card is that I like the fact that you can use her to sing. You can use her to help sing Under the Sea. So you could be like turn 2 play like an Ursula, turn 4 play Tiana, turn 5 you hard cast from your hand something like maybe Bruno, or some card that will force your opponent's units to have less power, and then you use Tiana to sink Under the Sea, or you use Tiana in some other retrospect where you do kind of like the opposite for later on in the game, where you play the song from Tiana first, and then you do Under the Sea by hard casting or playing with other characters. So that's kind of cute, and I think that's the only build she kind of goes into. Because that's kind of worth it, to be fair. Moving on to Charlotte LaBeouf. One of my favorite characters from Princess and the Frog, by the way. The only reason I put her in there is because princesses can be a thing. They can be a deck. She's a vanilla. She will get healed. She's good for Rapunzel. That's all it is. When I say vanilla, by the way, I don't mean like the previous vanilla that I was on about, which I tend to rank as like one-offs. I mean this in the idea of this card itself can live through the first couple of turns. We've seen these kind of cards before be ran and used in other builds. We've had Olaf come back up again from what I remember, or crop up a couple of times. So yeah. Louis, while his character is being challenged, the challenging character gets -1. So essentially, he kind of works as a 3-mana 2/4 to an extent, which is kind of cool. It's kind of like having like a weird resist where he doesn't have resist, but in some retrospect he does. Unfortunately, he does just kind of die to things like Mim Fox and stuff like that. Womp womp. But that's pretty much it. I don't think he's bad. I just don't think he's like insane, and I don't think he's going to be ran. So just thought I'd let you know. But moving on to our next card. So we have Donald Duck Coin Collector. So this is the card I was on about that's I think is only runnable in Mufasa, and that's literally because of the second card. So either he can be played as a 4-mana 4/8, which if you get that out, you're feeling good. That is a good stat line for an 8-drop on potentially turn 4, and that's cool. So you would have to run like 4 copies of each. The problem is though, is how consistent is that? Not really that consistent. The second effect, though, I actually quite like, and this is the reason why I think it's pretty good in Mufasa. So Mufasa has a lot of big bodies, and it's it's when this card is played. Yeah, apologies. I just reread the card. The card's not that good. It's only good if you cheat it out. I think, and it's just a big stat line at the end of the day. Um, there is some niche in Mufasa where you swing with Mufasa, you reveal this off the top, but with Mufasa you want to play more aggressive for the most part. It's rare that you want to trade with Mufasa. Like the only times that you trade with Mufasa is that you're trying to hope and pray that you hit something like a Maleficent Dragon off the top of your deck. And if you hit Donald, you're probably still feeling pretty bad. If you're not hitting, pardon me. If you do hit a Donald though, you can dig out for more answers. You can dig for your B prep. You can dig for other things as well. So it's kind of like twists and roundabouts where some things are pretty good on it, some things are probably not as good on it, and this is why it's going to be as a 2. I don't think it's going to see any play unless there is some way to get the piggy banks to essentially be like really, really runnable. Chief Bogo, I've already explained this card a little bit, but during your opponent's turn, whenever one of your characters with bodyguard gets banished, reveal the top card of your deck. If that card is a 5 cost or less, you can play it for free. Otherwise, put on top of your deck. So, kind of cool thing about this is that it's essentially Mufasa, like the Mufasa Legendary. It's a very, very similar process. If you have a board wipe, if your board gets wiped by B prep or something like this, if I recall correctly, this card does proc for every card on Bodyguard that gets banished during your opponent's turn. The problem is, as I said, Bodyguard is not a good build. You need to have a build where your opponent has to attack into your bodyguards. If they can't, it's kind of you're kind of like not enjoying it. So there needs to be a card for that. There isn't a card at the moment, and that's why it's not that good. So yeah. Darling Dear, so this is kind of cute. The reason why I put this down is because it is lore gain. It kind of fits under the same bill as the Donald Duck bodyguard to an extent, where you give something lore and they just quest for more. It's pretty good well, it's not going to probably be run in Churner Dog, but I can see people teching this in as an option, potentially in other aggressive builds, just to be like, yeah, we'll just randomly gain a lore. Cool. So, randomly getting 2 lore actually. So it's kind of like an overstated. What's the card in purple? There's like a 2-drop action in purple. Where you just gain 2 lore. This is kind of like an overstated one where you get a 4/4 body on it as well, which is kind of cute and it's inkable. So you just be like, oh, okay, I've got this in my opening hand. Ink. Perdita, where you have a puppy in play, this character gains +1 shield. Kind of cute. Could be better. The reason why I put it as a 2 of is because of the Perdita Shift line, which I don't think the Perdita Shift is that good, but I do think it's kind of okay. It's alright. It's there. It does a thing. Having an additional thing, power means that not power shield means that you can heal it for a bit more with certain cards. The problem is that I kind of wish that it gave all your puppies power instead of that. So like while you have a puppy in play, they gain +1 damage, +1 strength, which means that your turn 3 when you shift onto it'll basically be like your turn 1 could be like one of the 1-drops, the new 1-drop puppy. Your turn 2 could be like a puppy or Perdita, and your turn 3 could be a shift onto thing, and then turn 4 2 puppies, and then you have like 2 3/3 bodies that are going to swing in, which is kind of cute, but I don't think they're that good. I still don't think puppies is a good build, and unfortunately, I don't think it's going to like fit the mold this this set. So if anyone's come into this video being like, "Oh, puppies gonna be so good," I'm so sorry. My opinion is going to be very, very different to what you're probably thinking. Moving on to the last U card, Nephew's Piggy Bank. I think this is just as good as Donald is. The reason being that I put this down, so you can have like a turn 2 Piggy Bank, turn 3 Piggy Bank, turn 4 Donald, which is kind of cool, but you need to draw the nuts. The resting characters for it, the resting itself to give chosen character minus power. it kind of fits onto the same boat as what's the is it I can't remember the name of it, but it's the doll from Lilo and Stitch that was in the last set. Or the set before. There's a cool build that Earlmeister actually did, which I really appreciate. It's like a red it's like a red amber deck where you manipulate the power of your opponent's units, and then with that card, and then like shifting Sisu to just board wipe and killing different things, and your card draw is the Madrigal mother, and not Alma, the other one, and I can't remember the other one. Rapunzel, Gift of the Theming. So that's kind of cool. I do quite like that. Next card, it means no worries. So this might be like quite a surprising one. I think this card is not that good in some regards. I think it's really good in some other places though. I think there is potentially a build where you kind of just slam all of your cards into your graveyard. You try and play this down, and you get some sort of benefit. The problem is that it doesn't really fit into an aggressive deck because of its nature of how the card works. If you're playing this in an aggressive deck and you're going like, okay, sure, I'm just going to sing with this to get 3 characters out and then just play a couple of characters for free. At that point, it's kind of a weird one because you're likely singing this with just Chernobog if you can, but also in the same vein, Chernobog does the thing where he'll return everything back, so it doesn't really work. It's kind of counterintuitive to the decks that it could possibly be in. I think the only deck which may run it as a one-off is Steel Song. Or some other aggressive build that can sing songs. So maybe something green, where you use Ursula to Deceiver of All, and you kind of just go from there. So yeah, I don't think it's that crazy, and I understand why people like it though. So I might be completely wrong about this card. I will say though, the Enchanted is absolutely stunning. If you guys have not seen it, please check it out. This is a chase card for a lot of people. I can tell you that right now. It's like that and Into the Unknown are very pretty cards. Dalmatian Puppy, I don't need to talk about Dalmatian Puppy. We've already had it in set 3. This set has a couple of reprints. It's this one and a Captain Hook from Steel. It's cute. It's an army build. You don't run 99 if you're playing the puppy deck. If you do want to play the puppy deck, go for it. If you want to just piss about and have a little bit of a laugh, play with 99. I'm not one to stop you. But if you want to play on a more competitive level, yeah, puppy is just end the play. I never think that puppies is the play. So moving on to our 3-drop cards. So we've only got like 5. So Candy Drift, I like this card. This card's actually really cool. It cantrips itself and you kind of kill a unit. That's really cool. I can't really say much else about it. It's just a solid card, just a solid way of getting some sort of board wipe in Amber Red, and you can go for a more battle box deck called due to it. You can use it to essentially kill something big, which is really good, and I like that a lot. So that's cool. Clawhouser, the bodyguard, it's kind of cute. The 1/4 stat line is kind of cute. The Factory Quest for 2 is pretty good. So the other cards that have done that is like the Prince. So you can play this on 3. Your opponent swings into it, maybe, and you just hit it with Rapunzel and then sing Along Came Zeus. So it's a tech card for Steel Song, and I would like to try it out, but I don't think it's going to be crazy good. I think Goofy fits into the same vein, where the card's probably better when the standard format comes out. At the current point of time, though, it's not incredible. It essentially turns into your turn. It is a turn 4 play that you want to run a deck using like stuff like Aurora, Mr. Smee, and things like that. So it's not bad. Like at the end of your turn, you may remove up to 1 damage and ready each character to move this way. It's good for Bolt as well. I don't think Bolt is a good card yet, but when standard format comes out, I do think that Bolt with Simba and this could be pretty good. So and Aurora, where you just go, okay, I'll quest with Aurora, heal stuff up from the Goofy's end of turn effect, and then ready the Aurora as well. So that's kind of cool. Hui, when it's quest, you can pay 2 less. It's a 2 mana 2/3 that cheats stuff out a little bit. That's kind of good. I think this is one that's kind of notable, or people will probably be like, huh, this was better than I expected. So Rhino, when you play this character, chosen opponent character gets plus. Oh, he has -1 until starting next turn. So the reason why I've put this as a 3 isn't because of the Rhino, it's because of the shift line that goes with him. This also kind of works in a couple of builds. It can work in Steel Song. It will work in the more battle box decks as well, where you want to trade your units into other things in a positive manner and then heal it up with something like Rapunzel if possible. So that's kind of cool. And then the last one is obviously Under the Sea, where you just play like a couple of these, you sing Under the Sea because yeah. So it's got a good few options to be fair. Moving on to our 4-drops. So I've only got one 4-drop and I've got no 5-drops. Spoiler alert. Our 4-drop is Lady. So when you play this character, you may play a character with 2 or less for free. So this will be from hand. It does. If it was to be from your discard pile, it will state this kind of like Perdita does. A 2/2 that quests for 2 is not really something that is that good. We've had it a lot. We've had the Arthur, we've had the Genie, we've had some other things as well. I think we've got almost one in every color now, and it isn't good. It isn't a good stat line, but the secondary effect is really good. Where the fact that you can kind of cheat out something for free, especially on the more aggressive decks, are really good. Steel Song, I kind of like this idea that you play her and you get to play a Mr. Smee for free. So a 5, turns into like a 3-mana 5/5 to a quote unquote extent, which is kind of cool. And then the preceding turn you play like Naveen, Whole New World, and you just keep going. So it's cool. It's a good card. I like it. In Churner Dog, it's also really runnable. I don't think it's a runnable like 4 of, but I think it's solid. I think it's a good card. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I will come back to this video in a little bit. I've got store jumps to go to, so you'll see me in a moment when the time has changed and I am back at like I don't know, like 4. So I'll be back a bit later to continue the rest of this video and talk about the other cards. Cool. So moving on from there. I've just got back from my store champ, so that might be a little bit of the reason why the lighting might be a little bit different. But we've just covered off the amber cards, and if you didn't hear me at the end of the thing, I did mention that none of the amber cards, in my opinion, are personally 5, as in base amber. I do think there's a couple of cards which are probably 5 stars, probably the best cards in the entire set, that are in amber indeed. So we'll go over to them when we get to that point. But we are moving on to Amethyst, and to essentially talk about Amethyst, we'll start off with the 1-star cards. So we've got Megara. So while you have a character named Hades in play, this game's Challenger 2. The problem is there's only really one good Hades currently in the game. 2 technically after this set, but I do think there's only one good Hades, which can kind of make it work. But also in the same vein, that is a 7-drop legendary from set 1. So when rotation hits, this won't be relevant. And I still don't think it's that good of a card. It's cool for a Challenger +2. I kind of wish I had evasive, but AO happens, right? Moving on to Cusco, a 1/3 for 4. When you play this character, you may return chosen character, item, or location with 2 costs or less back to their player's hand. It just gets worse as the game goes on. I'm going to be perfectly frank. The problem is there's not many decks, maybe outside of Churner Dog, which really reliably like this concept of bouncing your opponent's stuff back to their hands on cheaper costs. A lot of other decks tend to not really curve that well in that cheaper side of things. There are some cute things that you can do. So for example, you can be like, I'll play Mr. Smee on turn 2, I'll quest with them, I'll quest with them again, and then bounce them back 2 turns down the line with Cusco. Because the problem with like Mr. Smee is that if you don't have a captain or you don't have Rapunzel, he kind of becomes just a swing into something, and that's really it. Or maybe just a random 2 quest. So he's alright. He's alright. But I think this card primarily will work on the Mr. Smee, or if you want to disrupt your opponent's board, especially Churner Dog. I think it's a cute option, but I don't think it's going to make any relevancy in reality, in all honesty. The next one to talk about is Bruno Madrigal. So when you play this character, chosen opposing character can't ready at the end of their turn. I am kind of in a mixture of this. I like the fact that it stops and slows down a board, and actually, to be honest, with the fact it slows down a board for one turn, it's kind of cute, and it can, well, not a board, but a character. It's quite cute. The problem is your opponent needs exerted characters to really work. So, oh, pardon me. Yeah, I don't think it's crazy, crazy good, but I think it's cute and I think it's funny. So, yeah, you know. Drune. So this is the card from. This is the like the plague thing from Raya, I believe. 1/5 challenger for. It's just the worst Pluto. Pluto is better. Like the 4-drop 5/5 that. No, the 5-drop 5/5 that has a bodyguard and also is consistently like a 5/5 while it's on the board. I think that card's a lot better than this, and this card's kind of whatever in the same vein. Cute, but it just doesn't accelerate the game plan for anything. You're not really going to be challenging into things, and this is the problem with Challenger, right? There's not many cards that work with Challenger. I think the only one off the top of my head, which I'm like, yeah, this is a good card for Challenger, is the Jafar, but that's not primarily because of just the Jafar itself. Sorry, because of the challenge itself, it's because you also have the ability to shift it into the big Jafar a couple of turns later on down the line, and you gain some benefits from that. You can normally trade a couple of things with it, and then it kind of goes off from there. But for the most part, I think that's like the main thing. Oh, pardon. Moving on, we have 3 vanilla cards. Surprise! So you have the Madam Mim, up to no good. You have Podispel, which is, to be fair, I actually think I prefer the Podispel a little bit more than the Madam Mim. A 3-mana 3/4 3/4 is better than a 3-mana 4/3 in most case scenarios, unless you're trading up. And the Bambi, which is a 2-mana 3/2, which I think is also quite good. Yeah, there's not really much to say about them. They're vanilla cards; they won't get ran. Cute draft cards. So if you're playing draft, these are cards that are good from the get go. If you are not sure what to build, there you go. And then Rider having evasive. I think a 4-drop evasive. It's a 3/4 with evasive. It's literally just one stat extra to get the evasive line. That it's not good. It's there's better cards to play on 4. Honestly, you have more tempo. If you want a good evasive card, you have Iago in purple. So it's the question of would you play this or would you play Iago? And Iago in 99% of times is probably better than Ryder for a bigger stat line, a bigger body, and sure it's got the vanish keyword, but yeah, that's pretty much like the same boat, right? Moving on to the last 3, so you have the Scarab, which allows you to return a illusion character from discard to hand. The problem with this is that it fits under the same boat as the same boat, quote unquote, as the pirate ship from the set 6 one, the one where you can grab pirates, the Winnie the Pooh ship. Yeah, that card is kind of whatever, and this card's gonna fit the exact same boat. People will play it on 2 and they'll be like, "Ah, oh, this is brilliant." No, well, later than 2, they'll play it on like 4, 5 when your illusion's starting to go, and they'll be like, "Oh, this is kind of good." And then I'll realize, and I'll be like, "This doesn't feel good because it doesn't benefit you. It doesn't excel any game plan or any existence." Because of the fact that illusions don't really have a solid game plan to go on to. Like, you don't want to do like turn 1 Royal Guard, turn 2 Scarab, the Royal Guard dies something, and then you go, okay, I'll use the Scarab and play the Royal Guard again. That's not good value. You're essentially wanting your Royal Guard to hopefully live a turn, so then you can go, okay, sure, well, Royal Guard, something, you'll quest with the Royal Guard, and then you'll bounce it back with the Madam and Fox, and then use it for ink later. And Scarab doesn't really help with that. So it kind of just falls in like a dead card section. Similar to the Camille, any card that's banished in a challenge, I think is kind of, for the most part, kind of dog. Cards that are banished, so this is why the Diablo is really good. The 1 mana 0/1 in purple, which is also ran a lot. Obviously because of the small stat line, because of the small like mana cost for it, it's inkable. But it is always a draw card that will at some point just get you lore. So that's quite cute. But no, these cards that are always banished in a challenge are just kind of bad. They don't really have any merit to be there. The second that you get like Zeus on it, it's just whatever. Nero, I personally almost put this up to a 2. I think this card's really cute. Until I read that it's only from this card. So you have to swing in, and then you play something else, and then you move the damage over. Or you move the damage over, and then you play Madam Mim Fox, which is kind of cute. Is it good? No. It's really bad. This card I don't like. I don't think it's good. I don't think it really does anything. If it was moving damage from another character or any character, or just move one damage counter from chosen character to opposing character, then that would be cool. I do want more cards that make it that you can move damage between your own characters, because that would also be cool. But this is the case. This is the reason why I don't think Nero is like any good for the most part. But talking about cards that actually might be good, talking about our 2-drop cards. So we have Monstro. Monstro, the reason why this card might be pretty good is that it essentially does become a board wipe when you get enough card draw. In Steel, this could actually be alright, where you go Monstro, One Last Hero, and One Last Hope. And I will be mentioning this card again. I do think One Last Hope is a really good card currently for something like this. And you just, swing, discard, swing, discard, swing, discard, swing, discard. But I think there's something better than this. And I will get to that when I get to that card. So there is a cute one with the Tinkerbell, the new legendary Tinkerbell, which I'll get to, and I will discuss Monstro, Tinkerbell, and a couple of other cards from previous sets, which I think work with that Tinkerbell, but we have to get there first. Moving on to Elsa, pay 1, choose and discard a card to exert chosen opposing character is actually quite good. I'm going to be honest, this is a decent Elsa. I am hesitant on putting on a 2. I think it might actually deserve a 3 spot. But I can, the reason for that is because you can exert choosing opposing character. The problem with it is that you're discarding cards. So there's not really many cards that you want to be like, oh, I want to discard this. Because losing card advantage is kind of shit. Any loss of card advantage is a bad idea, and you don't really want to do that. So that's why the Elsa is kind of there. But I wouldn't be surprised. This is like the one card that I would put like a little sticker, like a little mark on it to say, this could be good, this could be playable in set 8. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this card does make some waves, especially when the standard format comes out. This actually might be alright. So, but I think at the current point of time, it will probably be a 2, maybe a small funny tech option in a silly deck at the current point of time though. Yolana, 3 mana 2/3. When you play this chosen character, gets +2 challenges turn. The reason it's a 2 is because this card has essentially been printed off before with the Jafar in set 7. There was a Jafar in set 7, which is literally the exact same text, but it's on Steel. And that card's ran. But the reason that card's ran is primarily because of the Jafar shift line, because you'll play this, you'll play another Jafar, and then you'll just shift Jafar, whole new world, right? This card, however, I think won't get as much credit or worth because of the fact that it's a completely different character. But the fact that you can give Challenger and then you can bounce it and play it again to give Challenger after questing it is actually alright. It's not bad. It's not the worst thing in the world. It could be better, it could be worse. I can see this getting played when rotation hits. Royal Guard. Whenever you draw a card, just get Challenger Wonder's turn. I think this card's cute. I don't think this card's amazing, but I think this card's cute. So what I mean by that is that whenever you draw a card, it will essentially swing for 1 more. So it's kind of like an over-glorified 2/2 to an extent, if you get what I mean. Like a 1-drop 2/2. That's what the game has had, and this obviously, because this will count the draw at the start of turn, it will essentially be like this character will always be quote-unquote Challenger 1, if you get what I mean. And then because you're playing purple, you get to draw cards. This could actually trade into things. This could become like a 4/2 that can trade into a 4 health unit, which isn't bad, honestly. I wouldn't be surprised to see this card get some play, especially in the more battle boxy decks. This card I would genuinely look out for. Don't be surprised if this card does something for a little bit, or someone plays it for a little bit because of what it does. So. But moving on to our other 3 cards. So the other 3 cards is They Never Come Back, which is up to 2 chosen characters can't ready at the start of their turn, draw a card. I think this is also the same argument as Elsa, where it could probably go up to a 3. It's a good card. It's a cantrip. The problem with the cantrip cards is that is that I think 2 is a better cantrip, or cheating out is a better cantrip. But unable to ready 2 characters next turn is actually pretty relevant in some builds. There are some lockout builds that are available in the game, and this helps facilitate it a little bit. The problem with lockout builds, or when I say lockout, there's 2 different types of lockout in the game. So there is the freeze lockout, as I would call it, where you exert your opponent's characters, they can't ready next turn, and you're just kind of just sitting there and waiting for them to try and do something. And then there's the lockout in terms of your opponent can't gain lore, they can't really play the game. This is the whole bend to your will blue-green deck that goes around. But there is a build that I was trying to theory craft in purple, where it was probably in blurple in all honesty, where you kind of lock your opponent out with just having all their characters exerted. They can't ready them. You just keep exerting the characters as they come in, and your opponent does gain lore, but this is because of cards like Go or some other plays and such. Unfortunately, at the time that it was made, it wasn't that good for pretty obvious reason, right? It was there, it was doing a thing. Was it good? Not really. But yeah. But moving on to our second card though, Forest Jewel. Your character's gain +2 challenger, and when this is banished, you can return this back to your hand this turn. I don't mind this. This is just a glorified version of the Fairy Godmother shift line from set 3. Which I love that card. I love that card to bits, and I'm so sad that it never got a shift line for 1, because that card's really cool in concept. You know, you can give your Cogsworth like Rush, and you just go, okay, swing my clocks, you know, that kind of thing. And this is the same kind of concept, but it just doesn't work. So I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't get played. As for Flower, when you play this character, when you play another character, Scry. There is a blurple build that I think can utilize this, where the concept is you run the Merlin from like the newest set, the like set 7 Dual Link Merlin. You run Flower, you run other cards, and you just look at the top card of your deck and put it into Inkwell. And then ramp up and essentially start to play bigger units from there, which could be kind of cool. The problem is that build just doesn't really have good removal in comparison to the blurple build. Into like, you know, the old blurple build is better in any sense of the word. So it's cute. Is it good? Not really. If you do see player from Flower though, I think it will be in rotation. So I do think when rotation comes out, I can see people testing Flower and seeing if it's going to work. But moving on to our 3s. So I've only got 5 cards in my 3 drops. Those being Fantastic and Magical, Bambi, Jiminy Cricket, Pinocchio, and Palace Guard. So Fantastic and Magical, I was actually discussing this with a friend on the way from my store champs down to here. And I said that I like this card because of a couple of reasons. The obvious one is that you play this with Ursula from set 3, the legendary, which allows you to double sing, and you gain a bunch of benefit from it. There is an Alma later on in the dual colors, which does also kind of work off this, but the only time it's really good is when you get a bunch of 1 questers to sing this together. So there is actually a potential build where you run singers in Amber, like, you know, Cinderella, who's a 1-drop singer, and she can also, you know, sing Friends on the Other Side. Some of the new singer stuff, Aurora, where you can move damage counters as well after singing, and then you gain like a bunch of lore and you draw a bunch of cards. I do only think that this is only good for that kind of build. I don't think it's good for any other kind of build. I'm gonna be honest. I can see this card not being mandatory in Fantastic and Magical. I think it's the kind of the middle boat where someone is going to try and break it, and if they can, they will. If they can't, I can completely understand why they can't. But it's a cute card, so it's a good testing card to give it a go with. Bambi. A lot of people have really gone, yeah, this card's really good. I do not like this card. So if you, the reason why I'm putting it as a 3 is because I think this card's really solid in a much later, like it's solid in rotation, right? This card is good in rotation. I don't think this card is good in unlimited when unlimited comes out, and that's why I put it as a 3. Sure, it's a goat. It's kind of like a goat, but or a white rose that will continuously keep going back to your hand. The problem with this is that Bambi, sure, she keeps going back to your hand, but then after I think like maybe a turn or two, you're not getting any value out of playing Bambi. You do get to a point where Bambi might just win you the game off the point because you just keep going. I'm gonna go play, gonna play again, gonna play again, gonna play again. But the second that it gets dealt with, it just doesn't do anything, and I don't think it's hardly ever going to quest for 3. It's gonna be rare. It's gonna be really rare that you see that thing quest for 3, in my personal opinion. But I can understand why people like the card. It's a cool design. It is a really cool design. And talking about cool designs, Jiminy Cricket is really interesting. I love this card. This is such a cool tech option. So it's a 1 mana. It's a 2 mana 1/1 evasive, so it can only be attacked by evasives. And while he's exerted, opposing characters will rush enter exerted. So if you don't understand what that means, your Mauis, the set 1 Mauis, yeah, that card, it's not swinging into anything. It's annoying, and from what I remember, I don't know how it works with the. I can't remember the name of it. There is a card in the Peter Pan card where you give your evasive characters rush. I don't know how it exactly works because I don't think they enter with rush. They just gain rush, so they don't enter an exert. So Peter Pan, I believe, does actually work around it, but Alster gets exerted, which is kind of a good card to keep exerted from the get go. So I can see this card being teched in, not as like a 4 of, or but like a 1 of for these kind of tech options where you have to play against these rush builds. Pinocchio, talking about another evasive. Once during your turn, whenever you ready this card, you may draw a card. So just to explain, it is a once during your turn. So when you ready him, it's similar to the beast. You can draw a second card. That is only at the start of your turn though, and when you do re-ready him, you can't draw a second card because you've already drawn the first card from him. A lot of people are really hyping this card. I can understand why. It does essentially turn into like a bunch of card draw. It turns into a better genie, if anything. Eventually, I think Genie has some metric to it, and I think it has some things that I'm like, yeah, I think the Genie is better. But I also think there's certain builds where the Pinocchio feels better. Like damage moving is pretty good for him because he's a 0/4, so you can just go like, okay, I'll swing, ready him up, move some damage, and be happy with that, right? But for the most part, he just loses the 2 damage to allow you to potentially draw more cards, which is interesting. It's also inkable, so there is a bit more merit in Genie. I can see people trying to run this card. Do I think it's going to make a splash? I think it's going to do really well in rotation. I don't think it's going to do great in Infinity, but I want to see people testing this one. I know people are saying that it's pretty damn good. So Palace Guard I think is really good though. I think it's a really good start line. 1 mana 1/4. There's not many things in the game that deal with 1 mana 1/4s, especially with a Vanish. So, for example, I guess today when I was playing Steel Song in Store Champs, I was against Daisy quite a lot, and that resulted in kind of awkward trades and such. Sure, it dies to a Let Storm Rage on. Sure, it can die to a just playing out Strength of a Raging Fire with nothing on board to accept him, right? Because it targets. But it's kind of cool to have an overstated stat line like this. I like it. I personally love this card. I can understand why it would do really bad though. So yeah, can't really complain myself, but I can understand if people don't run it. So my number 4. My number 4 is everyone's got a weakness. So spoiler alert, there is the Hades card, which I think is really cool. And this card is move 1 damage counter from each of damage character you haven't played to choose an opposing character, draw a card for each damage you move this way. I think there's a really cool build where you run this, you run like the pirates. I don't know. It's not grab your swords. It's on your feet. I think it's called, where you deal one damage to all your characters. They're all ready up, and then you move the damage counters from this over to your opponent's stuff, and either kill it and then draw a bunch of cards this way, and then use Maleficent to move more damage counters. This card's really cool. This card's actually genuinely really solid, and I think people are going to underestimate this card. I don't think it's a 4 of. It's pretty obvious. I think it's more like a 2 of, maybe a 3 of, because it's good card draw. It will be good card draw, especially in Rubyami. So we'll see how it goes. I'm interested to see what people do with this card. There are going to be some interesting, cool dynamics, especially in what Ruby has, like the whole damage self characters and such. As for my 5s, pretty similar to Amber. I don't think there's any set Amethyst cards which are 5. I don't even think off the top of my head there's any cards that are just a 5 in my opinion in Amethyst in general. So unfortunately, sorry guys if you wanted the Amethyst ones. There are some cute things, but I don't really agree with that. Moving on to Emerald though. So we have Chip. When you play this character, choose an opponent, choose it and discards a card. This could probably go up. This is probably a 2. This can probably be tacked into steel, like some discard steel deck. Because playing a character, it could actually be run in the Amethyst deck now thinking about it, where you just play him the turn after, you bounce him, and then you play him again the turn after that, and your opponent's going, why am I discarding all my cards? That kind of stuff. So, yeah. Dale, Napoleon, pretty obvious reasons. They're just vanillas. The Dale actually might have a bit of a niche as well, where he could also be a 2 because of his stat line. The problem is that I don't think he really has any other big supporting outside of the big Dale from the previous sets. Like I think set 6, the big Chip and Dale, the Rescue Rangers one. Yeah, I think that's the only card that it really works with, and it's still not that good. So as for Mad Dog, I don't think there's any good Don Carnage cards. So being able to play this for 3 is still not good. I don't think that playing Don Carnage, playing this from Don Carnage for 3 is good, unless the Don Carnage cards are actually a good 3-drop. A good 2-drop. Then yeah, outside of that, I don't think there's like any reason to really play him. So yeah, if there was, it would be quite similar to like Miss Bianca, and then where you play Don Carnage, you play Miss Bianca, you play this card. But the problem is Miss Bianca works with universally more cards than this card, so that perfectly makes sense. Maybe in the future when a good Don Carnage card comes out in Unlimited, or maybe in something in rotation, at the time would be quite nice, but at the current point of play, up through set 8, no. Moving on to our next set of cards, March Hare. So when you play this character, deal 2 damage to chosen damage characters. This is a good draft card. If you play draft and you like draft, this is a card to draft in set 8. Is it a good card outside of draft? No, 100%. You are not really going to be dealing that much damage to damage characters unless you're playing the green-red build that's being advertised with Alice in Wonderland. I think it's a cool card. I think it's a cool concept. Do I think it's a good card? No, I don't think the whole Alice in Wonderland deck is going to be a thing anyway, but I love the concept of it. I love the idea of being able to continuously deal damage to everything. There's a card in Hearthstone from back in the day called Defile, I think it's called, where it's like deal 1 damage to everything, and then if it kills something, keep repeating it until you can't do it again. And this deck kind of reminds me of that, and I think it's cool. It's a cool concept. So I like that they're starting to toy with this idea, but in all honesty, if they want to do anything, please just print Defile. Just make the card Defile. Don't even call it Defile. Just call something else and just go bam, it's the exact same card, because that was a cool card. Moving on to Tipo, 2 mana, 2/2 evasive. It's kind of whatever, but the Chaka is the reason why you play the Tipo, right? When you play this character, if you have Tipo in play, so if you have Tipo in play by turn 3, which you normally will because you're playing the blue card, chosen opposing character gets reckless during their next turn. So if you want my personal opinion, This Topo is really bad. This Chaka might be runnable in blue-green because you turn 2 Tipo, you turn 3 play this, you then turn 4 play the Muses, you use Chaka to sing like um, How Far I'll Go, and then bounce something back to your opponent's hand, and then whatever they're running is going to be annoying. It helps blue-green and only specifically blue-green, but it's a card that's really reliant on you getting your turn 2 Tipo, and I think a card like Grand Matala is better. But if you do have the line of Tipo, the Chaka, and then the Muses to sing How Far I'll Go with Chaka, then yeah, you've got a pretty good starting point there. So there will be someone who will test it, and I do agree that testing it is a correct thing to do on this card. Do I think it's going to make waves? No. And then the last card is Wilhelm. It's a 3/4. Good draft card. That's basically it. I've already spoken about this card in a different color. That's pretty much it. But moving on to our 2-drop cards, though, and I've got quite a few of them, I will say. We have Flynn Rider. So whenever this character is challenged, the challenging player may choose and discard a card if they don't gain 2 lore. This is actually quite a good card. I do like this. I think the problem with it is that it's it's on an awkward stat line on an awkward cost. So 1/4 isn't bad. The problem is it's in a range where it can get Zeused, it can get brawled, it can die to Little Sisu really easily. It's just not a great card at the time, but I can also see it being played in a more aggressive build where you don't care about your hand, you don't care about what your opponent does, you just want to win. And yeah, it's the idea that your opponent will most likely have an answer for this card 90% of the time. And the times that it doesn't, this card, it slaps. This card's so good for the times that they just don't have an answer for this. But for the times that it does, it feels worse. So, moving on to Fred. When you play this character, you may banish chosen item. This is Benja. This is just Benja. This is the exact line for Benja. It's on a different color, but it is Benja. The reason why he's a 2 is because there is actual options for him, and also because of the fact that items might have some relevancy coming up into the next play, into the next thing. And also there is a Fred shift for 4 from what I remember, which is quite good. So I actually don't mind this card. I think this card's pretty cool. I will explain what I mean about that when I get to the card, because I think it is just flat out green or flat out emerald. So we'll get to that eventually. Bill the Lizard. So while you have another character that has damage, this character gains evasive. It's just Pascal. It's Pascal on the card. This is cute. The reason why I put it as a 2 is because it's just Pascal. I think Pascal was a cute, fun card, and I still kind of like it, and that's why I put it as a 2. Do I think it's good? It's probably a 1. If I'm going to be brutally honest, it's probably like a 1.5 into 2. Some lists might actually try it, but it's not good. I wouldn't expect anyone to play this in a competitive standpoint to be like, oh yeah, this card's incredible, because Pascal just does the job easier, right? And then Basil, Undercover Detective. When you play this character, you may return chosen character to the player's hand, and whenever this character quests, chosen player discards a card at random. Chosen opponent, sorry, not player. So this is fun. I don't like the stat line. I don't like the cost. That's the only reason for this. It's good for some decks. It's bad for others, if you get what I mean. So, yeah, I don't agree with this. I don't disagree with it. I think it's fine to have. And then sometimes I'm just there like, this is whatever. This is kind of like a bad card. The only deck that this runs into is the Bend to My Will thing. And the problem is that when you're playing it, you have to make sure that the preceding turn you have some way to bounce your opponent's stuff, because if you're playing something on 7, the likelihood is that you're either playing Clara Bal or you're playing Bend. Right? You're not playing this card. I tested out when I was testing out the decks for blue green. The ones that I was thinking about testing from initial play point was the Daisy, the Daisy Duck, I believe, which bounced your opponent's stuff, and that just felt kind of bad in some awkward scenarios. and Mufasa, and that felt kind of bad as well for some odd reason. Um, but I think it's because the build wasn't focused towards doing him with you came back. And I think that this card, whilst it is a cute tech option, I don't think it sees the ground to make it work. Kind of like the other Basil cards, the ones that are like, oh, your opponent discards something, your opponent discards this, your opponent discards that, when it doesn't really work. So yeah, it's unfortunate. It's cute, but it's unfortunate. Moving on to this next set of cards. So walk the plank. Your pirates gain resist to banish the chosen damaged character. The idea is that you sing grab your swords and then you just ping, 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 ping with all your pirates. The problem is that there's not enough pirates around that really fit from this. I don't think there's anything bad with this in terms of using it with like Pete, because Pete's a good card actually. Pete's a very good card. This could be a cute card in Emerald Steel, the discard build, because there are quite a number of pirates in there from what I recall. But I don't think it's really worth it at the moment. Moving on to Wrong Lever. This is a 2-card package. So Wrong Lever is choose one, bounce an opponent's character, or put a card from called Pull the Lever onto the bottom of your deck to bot deck one of your opponent's characters. I think this is going to be Tech 10. The problem is that this is a Reliant engine between Ruby Emerald, and Mother Knows Best is better than Wrong Lever to some extent because you can play it for free. Wrong Lever is better than Mother Knows Best because there's more versatility to it. I do like versatile cards. This is a cool versatile card where you don't have to pull the lever to make this work, but you kind of lose out on the second option because you're not playing pull the lever, right? So that's like the big problem with it. And that's why I think it's a 2. I think it's a bit too reliant on like a 4-card combo to make it work, and you don't really get much benefit from it for like a 3. He who steals and runs away. Banish an item, draw a card. This is cute. This is just a cantrip. It's a cantrip that destroys something. Do I think it's amazing? Not really. Hypnotize is a better card, in all honesty, in all retrospect. This card's kind of there as a tech option for if a item deck is just way too good in the meta. So, pardon me, I'm getting tired from this. Long day. Archimedes. When you play this character, you may banish chosen item. There's another one that banishes. Holy moly! During the turn when an item is banished, you may draw a card and discard. This is cute in some builds. As I said, kind of similar to He Who Steals and Runs Away. Pretty much the same boat. It's only realistically there if you're playing if you're playing a meta that's very item dependent, or if there's items that are really dependent to be in the meta, and this is, if you want to get rid of your opponent's Maurice's Workshops, it's this. These are the cards. When Standard comes around though, these cards will probably rotate out of like a deck if an item build is likely to be around. Or if an item build actually becomes a thing, then these cards will be a bit more interesting to run. So, moving on to our next one, and our last one is the Kempus. So when you play a character, if you use Shift, they get +4. So it means that they kind of get like a quote-unquote challenger +4. There's a cool card, there's a cool concept where you play Baloo, and then you play a shift target onto something else, and you make him swing big. And that's really it. Honestly, shifting's fun. Shifting's a cool mechanic, and I do like the concept of having this. I just don't think it's good. I think it's there for the Big Hero 6 deck as a one-off, and still at that vein, it's not even that good. It could be better, it could be worse. So, but yeah, that's it for the 2 drops. For the 3 drops, we have 5 cards. So we have Gadget. So when you play this character, if an opponent has more cards than you, you may draw a card. This I put as a 3-of because of Mufasa. So if you don't understand what I mean, there is a deck called Mufasa You Came Home, where you basically play Mufasa, use You Came Back to just keep readying him and keep questing, and you keep a combo going. The card that I ran in there was the Clarabelle 3-drop, where I think the deck actually performed really well when it went off, and it went off a lot more than I expected it to. The problem with it is that you didn't really get much card draw, and your opponent would have more card draw than you. So this card kind of fits that same mold where you need a second card that will just draw you a card to keep going. So yeah, I like this card. I think it's good. I actually even think it's quite good outside of just Emerald, outside of the Mufasa build. So yeah. Fred. This is the shift Fred I was on about. So you can do like a turn 2 Go-Go Tamago, turn 3 Fred, turn 4 Go-Go Tamago, turn 5 Fred again. And that's not to talk about the artist. So whenever this character quests, not just Fred plays, reveal top cards until you get a Floodborn character, put it into your hand, and then shuffle the rest of the deck. If you have no Floodborns in the deck, it whiffs, you just shuffle your deck and put it back. It's normal. This card's cool. I think it lives multiple turns. I think it's going to get you a Floodborn most times. There's a really cool concept that you can do, in my opinion, much later on down the line. So if you've ever played games like, I'm trying to think like what else there is that does really well with it. Hearthstone has this, where you essentially kind of ruin your deck to an extent by playing like a one-off copy of a completely different target that's just a good card, and then you'll essentially use, like, let's say you had 2 4-drops and one of the 4-drops said, when you play this, play another 4-drop from your deck, and the way that Hearthstone's coded is it'll only take the other 4-drop in your deck and just play it onto the board. This is kind of like a similar concept where you just search for the you either keep just trying to plus off it with Floodborn and such, or you use this with the Fred in a later game in the rotation where you just keep going because there's only one target you want, and that target you will hit no matter what. It kind of acts like a 5th copy of this target because it's a Floodborn, which it's kind of cool. I like it. So moving on, Louis. So this character enters exerted, and opposing character gains reckless. The cool thing about this is because he's a 4/3, he is probably going to kill the thing that has been given reckless 90% of the time. Because in 3-drops, most 3-drops are more than 4 in health. It's very rare to have a card that's more than 4 in health in a 3, unless they have like a particular effect to help it, or like a really low stat line curve. So it's cool to give something with that, and then they have to swing in and get itself killed. So yeah, I like this card. I think it's a cool tech option, and I think it's a good card for stall decks. So it's up there. It's definitely up there. Moving on to Tramp. So when you play this character, chosen character gains warden until the start of your next turn. This is here not because of Churner Dog. I don't think this card's good in Churner Dog much. It's a cute tech option, it's a one-off. I think this card's really good in Mufasa, where you just go, okay, I'm going to play Mufasa and then play Tramp the turn out, or play something to give something else ward until the start of your next turn, play Mufasa and just start popping off. The problem is with him as well, and I guess it kind of helps, is that Alice does the same job but better. I think Alice is probably a better card. And when I say Alice, I don't refer to any cards in this set. I refer to the blue 1/4 from set 5 or set 6, the Sailor one, which gives a character wards and also some other bits as well. But I mean, like, the on-play ward is good in certain scenarios against particular decks. So it's there as a tech option, especially when the rotation comes around. Moving on to our other card though, stopped chaos in its tracks, return up to 2 chosen characters with 3 or less, each to a player's hand. This is power, by the way. Good card. This is a good card for blue-green. The problem with it as well is that the Muses is going to rotate out, so this card kind of becomes worse. You want to play it on 8. You want to play it before 8 if possible, but I don't like it that much. I think it's a 3 because of the fact that it's good into Steel. The problem is that Steel has a bunch of cards in the early game, like Smee, Calhoun, and Pete, outside of Pete, they're all 3 costs. They sometimes have the Robin Hood, which it just is awkward numbers, it's awkward lines to actually deal with, and this gives some sort of avenue to it, which is quite good. But I think there's a couple of cards which probably do its job a little bit better. Hence why I've put this as a 3 and probably not a 4. But moving on to our 4s, because why wouldn't we? I've only got 3 cards, and it is Jock, Raya, and Rapunzel. So Jock, I think, is really good into Chernodog, and I personally think Chernodog is like the deck to beat in this upcoming set. So whenever you play this character, if you have 3 or more other characters in play, gain 2 lore. Chernodog is a very fast deck, and when I say fast, I mean very fast. I was playing against it today, and I found trouble because of how quick that deck can be. So having a card that will just gain you 2 lore and on a pretty decent body for 4 is solid. You probably want to be playing Tramp on 4, but this card will be thrown as a tech option. Maybe as a 2 of, maybe as a 1 of, because it kind of fits into the same boat as the Donald Duck bodyguard, where, you know, Donald Duck has bodyguard, you go, okay, cool, I can't really deal with this, womp womp, you know, that kind of stuff. So that's pretty much what I think about a Jock. Rapunzel, evasive, discard. Whenever she quests, chosen her opposing character can't question in the next turn. I had to think about this multiple times because my initial reaction was this card was dog. I thought this card was really bad. I think this card is still kind of bad, but when rotation hits, I think this card becomes really good. It gives an avenue for Emerald to slow down the game when they need to. Blue-green probably really like this card as well, if anything. And outside of that, it kind of just slows the game into a retrospect you want. Evasive is annoying. We've played against enough Elsa that I can see this being in purple-green as an alternative with Elsa, where you just use her to tap down opposing characters, and like the other one to like you'll use Elsa and Rapunzel combined notion to essentially have one tap down stuff, one stop the other one from questing, and then killing the other thing. So you'll be able to like annoy 2 different like you'll be able to make it difficult for players to actually play the game a little bit with those 2 cards. As for Raya, I really like this card, and the reason for this card is because I'm a massive Mufasa fan. If I'm going to be honest, if you don't agree with me, if you don't think that I don't like Mufasa, then it's somewhere. But I do indeed have the Enchanted Mufasa, and I do play it. There it is. My boy, my baby. I love Mufasa as a deck. I love the concept behind it, and I think the card's good. And I think this is another reason why this card's going to be good. This essentially makes the deck on its own. If you don't know what I mean, there are certain cards in the game that will have a deck themed around its effect. The Maleficent Legendary has a deck that works around it. It's not amazing at the moment, but it's got a good effect. The Raya Legendary that is coming out this set, there is a turn 8 or turn 9, maybe earlier as well, a 1-turn kill where you have 2 Rayas out, you have the Mufasa out, and then you just go, okay, good luck, quest to 20. Because of how Raya works, where if you have 2 Rayas and a Mufasa ready and you have 0 lore, you just go, quest with 1 Raya, quest with a second, ready the Raya, quest with the Raya to ready the other Raya, quest with the Raya again, ready the other Raya, quest with Mufasa, tap everything back up, and just keep repeating until you get to 20. I think it's somewhere between 18 and 22 lore. It's one of those 2. I think it's 20 because you can re-ready the Mufasa and then quest again with him to finish off the game. And a 5 mana, a 5/5 that quests for 2 is a good stat line, especially on a 6 drop that is inkable. So worst case scenario, she just becomes early ink. Best case scenario, there's 2 of them on the board and you win the game in 1 turn. Yeah, she's a good card. I like this card a lot. I like what she does. I like the fact that you could also use her in other builds to essentially become like a battle box deck where you hit one thing, you quest, you hit another thing, and you just keep going. It's a cool card. It's a cool concept, and I love it, honestly. As for my, You know, my 5-drops. Yeah, we don't have anything there either. But moving on to Ruby, and starting off with our cards, we have quite a few one-star cards in my opinion for Ruby. So we have Brutus. So during the turn when this character is banished, if one of your characters was damaged this turn, gain 2 lore. So the problem with this is that this card, you're kind of gaining the same benefit if you just... it's like if you just quest with 2 characters, it's the exact same benefit if you just quest with 2 1-drops. Because you are gaining the same effect. You are just gaining 2 lore anyway by questing with 2 1-drops. So why not play something that has a better effect? The thing that has this card going for it is that technically it does result in you probably killing something with him, which, yeah, it's cute. You get to kill something. Thumbs up. It's not incredible. It's not an incredible card. It is a good draft card. I will be honest. You play draft, you probably want to look for this card. It's a good thing to trade in draft, and this helps it. So, Vanellope von Schweetz. So she's a princess. She's evasive. She's a 3/1. I am going to be honest. This card probably should be a 2. The reason being is because Sir Hiss is a card, and Sir Hiss is ran. Sir Hiss is still ran in some builds, where, if you don't know what I mean, Sir Hiss is a 3/1 evasive, and that's a good stat line. You can kill Diablo at Cove, you can make it really awkward for your opponent's units, so not really much else to say. I guess the other thing to say is that it shifts really well into something else, right? Into like the Vanellope from the previous set, I think set 5, which is kind of cute, but still not that good. Honest John is a vanilla. And honestly, it's a vanilla. It's not that good. Gloyd Orange Boar, a 3-mana 1/2. When you play this character, each opponent loses 1 lore. You gain a lore. These cards are kind of whatever. It's very rare for a list. I think the only card that I have ever considered being a good contender for losing lore and gaining lore outside of Pirate's Life, which is an incredible card when you compare it with other cards of this nature. I think the only other card which could probably see worth with it is Aladdin. Outside of that, all the rest of them are fine. So, when I mean Aladdin, I mean the 1-drop, the 5-drop Aladdin, not the 5-drop, the 7-drop Shift 5 from set 1. But then you're also having to run Aladdin, which just doesn't work. So, yeah, swings and roundabouts. Moving on to our next card. So, Gaston. When you play this character, you may banish an item to give a chosen character +2 power. It's a 4-mana 4/4 that can essentially give Challenger if you meet a prerequisite of a Popsicle properly. It doesn't curve well enough. I kind of wish it was on 5 and had a higher stat line, because then you could be like, I'm going to banish my Popsicle, and then the turn 6, I'm going to play Tamatoa, gain the card back up, and we're going, yeah, let's fucking go. You know, that kind of stuff. But that's the only time that I'm like, yeah, it's kind of good. Outside of that, though, no, it's not worth it. I think there's cards that like him. There's a Lumiere, and not this Lumiere. There is another Lumiere, which is pretty good, and I think it kind of works with it. But talking about Lumiere, actually, 2-mana 1/1. If you have an item in discard, this gains evasive. So the concept is that you turn 1, play Popsicle, you sack it to play out the Bal, you play turn 2 Lumiere, turn 3 you shift the Lumiere into the good one, and then you have some good stat lined units, right? One of them has evasive, and yeah, it's cute. Is it good? No, I don't. I'm going to give you a spoiler alert right now for anyone who is curious about my opinion on this. I don't think that the Lumiere shift target, or while the list itself is there yet, there needs to be more items. There need to be better items as well. It's got something going for it. I understand, and I will get around to the cards, and I'll talk about the cards and as to why they are like this. So, yeah, I don't think it's there yet, but it will get there. It will get there. I believe it can do so. Alice, is Alice? She is a 4-mana 2/4 Inkable. Inkball is pretty relevant, obviously. When you play this character, you may ready chosen damage character of yours. They can't quest for the rest of the turn. There's just not really much use for it. There's better cards that do better things. There is a really cool interaction, or like a nice interaction, where you can have her be used to ready up Maui Harshark outside after he's challenged or something, and then have him swing into another thing. Sure, but is this card good? No. I think there's a cute card combination in purple red, or maybe blue red, but I don't think it's really there yet. The Dodo. This character gets +1 damage for each damage on him. This is a cool card. There's another card that does this exact same thing and has Bodyguard, and I will go to that later. And I don't think she's good either. So I don't think the Dodo is that good. It's the same as the legendary, what's the name of it? Donald Duck in set 3 that gained like lore for each damage it has on it, which never got ran. Yeah, I think this card kind of fits into the same boat. It's in brawl range, it's in season range. When you have more damage removal like that, yeah. In rotation, it might be alright. But the problem is when you're playing a card like this, in cool as a concept, and I like that it's cool in a concept, the thing is that you don't want to swing with him. You want to quest with him, and you want your opponent to swing into him. And that is really rare if you're not having a card that's questing for more than one. So if he was like a 0/5 that quested for 2, sure, I could see it. I could see this getting played. I could see it being like a 2 instead of a 1, right? For me. But I don't think it's really there at the current point in time. So I maybe in rotation at some point down the line, or maybe if they give it something like your characters swap damage with health, that could be quite cool. But yeah. Moving on. Mr. Snoops. So during your turn, when this card is banished, you may draw a card. This is bad. You want on-play draws. You don't want on-banish draws, because the problem is that if you're going to get it banished, you don't want it to be during your turn. It's rare that you want to banish something during your turn. You only really want to banish something during your opponent's turn. If you, in this respect, if you want to get a card drawn, right? The only times that you really want to get your own character banished is that if it's going to die. So, for example, a Smee with 2 damage, or a character like any of the Merlin lines, where when they banish, they gain some benefit anyway, especially Rabbit and Crab, right? This is just not good. Point and blank. Wreck-It Ralph. When you play this character, chosen racer character gets +4 power this turn. Racers aren't good. That's it. This card is as good as racers are, and I think racers are not good. Do I think they're fun? Yeah, probably. Do I think they're good? No. I don't think racers are a good archetype, and I don't think there's enough good racers to really work. It didn't work in the latest set, but I will say I do think that the whole start line, finish line is a really cool concept, and yeah, I love it. Lafayette, sorry. It's a vanilla. I can't really say anything about it. And then the Cricky, which I think should be probably a 2, if I'm going to be brutally honest. When you have 2 or more other characters in play, exerted characters, bear in mind, this character gains +2 lore, so it can quest for 3. Cute. That's it. So no, to actually give some more benefit and some more explanation to this card and what I mean, it's a card which works well in an aggressive red deck. I don't think there is an aggressive red deck at the current point of play, because there aren't any red cards which are in like the 0/4, 1/4 stat line that benefit from that. And the other complementary color you want to have with an aggressive deck is primarily Amber, because of Daisy Ducks, Lilos, obviously Rapunzel, stuff like that. So I just don't think it works. Moving on though, we have Twitter Padded and Fendowl. I think the owl is just a bad stat line. In all honesty. Just Oh, it's pretty bad. It's I've said this about the other ones. We have another one in red, and it just doesn't really gain anything from it. There is an ally trait to it, which is kind of cool. And if you want to run allies, but yeah, um, like that's an ally for you. Twitter padded. So chosen card gains evasive until the start of your next turn. There's the Emerald Coil, which just does this card but better because it can essentially go over multiple turns. It's rare that you want to give a character evasive um, during your turn, and it's just like a okay. Apologies about that. So with Twitter patted, the problem is that when you want a chosen character to gain evasive, it's rare that you want to do it, especially in red. Red cards you don't really want to gain to give evasive because the only good cards that have evasive already have it. You maybe want to give it to Maui, like the 5-drop Maui, but you're wanting to play Maui on 5. You don't want to play Maui on 6 because if you're playing a Maui on 6, you're playing Half Shark. You're not playing the Hero Tool, I think it's called, variant. So that's the reason. That's the primary reason why Twitter Power just probably won't work at all. And those are all my 1-drop cards, but 2-drop card or 2-star cards. So we have Feline. I thought this was Bambi for the briefest moment because they look very similar. Evasive, and whilst you have more opposing character, a higher power, it's a Flynn. While you have a higher power thing than your opponent, this character can quest for 3. So very, very similar to Flynn. I think Flynn is better, and I think Flynn does a better job in the late run. Um, but this is cool that you can go Flynn, Sisu, Farlene, and then, you know, casually gain lore, even more lore, like throughout your turns. So it's cool. It's a cool card. I like this card. Thumper. This is a really cool card for draft, and it might be really cute for actual play. So you can rest it to give chosen character +3 power this turn. You can also rest it to give himself. But why would you do that? You want Thumper to quest. Thumper questing is cool. But to give power to another unit is kind of cute for the small run. You can just be like, okay, sure. Turn 1, let's play Chernobog's followers. Turn 2, I'll play Thumper. I'll rest the Thumper, give Chernobog's power, and then swing to kill their big unit or whatever powerful threat your opponent has at the time, and then return it back to your hand with a Madam M Fox and kill something else is cute. So yeah, I like it. So Figaro, this is an item hate card, and I love item hate cards. So if you are like me, I think this card's only good if you're going to be playing against Lucky Dime. If Lucky Dime is relevant, this card is relevant. If Lucky Dime isn't relevant, this card is not relevant because most of the other items are just cantrips because Maurice's Workshop exists. So in item builds, if you don't know, the primary cards that you'll normally see in item builds are obviously Lucky Dime, Porpsicle, and Maurice's Workshop. You'll see the odd tech options like the Great Stone Dragon, which already enters Exerted, and it used to be Fishbone Quill. Is Fishbone Quill any good anymore? Not really, so it's not going to be ran in that sense. Items just isn't there, and I still don't think it's going to be there yet. So that's my personal reasoning. Mushu, so chosen character gains rush this turn. This is I can't remember the item. Pocket Watch. The Pocket Watch is a pay 1 rest this give character rush. It is just a Pocket Watch, or something like that. It's a cute card. Is it a good card? Not really. I can see it being ran. I think it's there not because of its effect. It's there because of the shift line for your turn 4 right after, where you go turn 1 Mulan, turn 2 something, turn 3 Mushu, turn 4 Mushu, turn 5 Mulan, and you just go bam, let's go. So yeah, I like this card. I don't think this card is good in retrospect when you compare it to other cards. The only reason it's a 2 is primarily because of the shift. But moving on to our 3s, the Sword of Shan Yu. So, rest one of your characters. Rest one of your characters. Ready chosen character. They can't quest for the rest of the turn. This is a cheap version of Shield of Virtue, and Shield of Virtue was ran. Honestly, even like recently, from what I remember, Shield of Virtue within the last set was ran for a brief period because it was an item. It was just there to do this job, which in Ruby Sapphire, this is probably what could replace Shield of Value as like a cheeky one-off. I think this card's good, if I'm going to be brutally honest. Do I think it's going to be used in any other list? Maybe. I like the fact that you can like play more than one, and for cheaper than Shield of Virtue, essentially just ready your Maui Half Shark and just swing, which is kind of cool. So yeah, I'm not going to knock this card. I think this card should be treated as a potential one-off in those kind of lists, and I think people are going to like be quite surprised about this. So next one, so my 4s. I think red has some really good 4-drops. So most everyone's mad here. This card is sick. This card is so good. So in my opinion. The problem is that we've had a couple of cards recently. I think it's like the Game Over one. Well, there's a Wreck-It Ralph one, and there's another one which are both banish. Just banish a character. They're Dragonfire. They're more costed Dragonfire. But the caveat is that one of them does it. I can't remember what one of them does it for. But the caveat for the other one is that it draws you a card. So it's a 2 because it cantrips. Right? It's not inkable, but it cantrips. But I think the other one is inkable, so it pays 1 more. This one is good because you gain lore equal to the damage on a chosen character. That's great. Honestly, it's a Go-Go Tamago that kills something. And if you're just doing Go-Go Tamago on a kill, it's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm gonna be honest. Like, so Go-Go Tamago you're always paying for. So most everybody mad here is essentially a Dragonfire for 3. If you take it in that retrospect. Sure, you don't get a 2/2 body, but you get the effect. So I guess the effect itself costs 2 and you get a Dragonfire on it, which makes sense. It's a good card. Go-Go Tamago is good. Dragonfire is being ran again because of that one Ruby Amethyst build. Yeah. This card, I can see this card being ran, even if it's just a 1-off, even if it's just a 2-off, I still think this card is good. And talking about other good cards, Lilo, causing an uproar. During the turn, if you've played 3 or more items, you can play it for free. I don't think that is going to happen often. It's going to be very rare, but Ayo, I might be wrong. It might turn out that this has a bunch of stuff to it that could work out really, really well. We just don't know. Do I like it? Yes. Yes, I do. But the second effect is the reason why I like it so much. When you play this character, ready chosen character, they can't quest for the rest of the turn. This with Half Shark. You play Half Shark, you swing, you play Lilo, or you play just a few actions. You play your Finders Keepers. You use Maui to sing Pirate's Life. You play your draw spell in Ruby Ami, and then you just play this for free, and then you ready Maui and you swing with it again. That's good. That's a good card, honestly. Yeah, this card is a good card. I don't think it's a 4-off. You're probably never going to see this in a list that doesn't just abuse items as a 4-off. I think you'll see this as a cute 2-off in a lot of different builds, especially even in Ruby Sapphire, where they just go, okay, cool, I can just develop your brain 3 times and then play this for free. That's pretty good. So, yeah. Moving on though, Tinkerbell, 1/1 evasive. When you play a character with 5 or more power, you may exert them to gain 2 lore. There have been some builds. There have been some things that people have already said, and I'm like, oh, that's spicy. That's really good. So there are a couple of cards which do work really well with this card. That being the Genie from set 5 or set 6, the legendary, where while he's exerted, all of your opponent players, like all of your opponent's characters that aren't exerted can't ready. So that's a good card for this. and you gain 2 lore from it, it's pretty good, in all honesty. Um, I don't know how this works with something like Sisu, which gains power respective to opponent's hand. But I think this card does have some niche benefits, but not because of how it works with other like big cards, or like, sorry, not because of how it works with just a big card and with like a big stat line, but when I mean like a big card with a good effect, which is nice to have while exerted. So like, so as I said, the genie and some other cards might really like this card, in all honesty. So that's why it's kind of up there. I can also see it being a 3. This card I think is really good, but I can also see this card being really bad and just not used after some testing. So yeah, I think the initial testing is this card is going to get some play, and then people will look at it and just be like, probably not as good as the other cards. And then Prince John, whenever your opponent plays a character, deal 1 damage to this character. It's a 3 mana 5/5. What can I say? It's just going to kill something. That's good. Well, does it die to Fox? 100%. But if you're playing this on turn 3 and then you just swing with something else, return it back from Fox, and then kill something else while playing another 1-drop, you gain so much value out of that. This thing takes out Maui. Like, not like both Half Shark and like the regular one. It'll be rarer to get this to take out Half Shark because you're probably not playing it with green. You're probably playing it in Ruby Ammo. That's basically it. But this card in general, solid. Honestly, really, really solid. Solid stat lines. I can see it being ran. I'm interested to see what people think about it. And as for my 5s, I did originally have Prince John in there, but this is the first card that I think is a 5, which is nothing we won't do. So it's a Sing Together for 8. Ready all your characters. For the rest of this turn, they take no damage from challenges or from quests. I'm going to be honest, and can't quest. I'm going to be honest, this card is kind of sick. If you want to go through like the whole cooking process with me on how I would cook a build, this card, One Last Hope, Scar Legendary, and you suddenly have a board wipe, a 1-card board wipe. That isn't just beat wrap. Where you can also get a bunch of lore if you have cards like what's his name, Kirshan and stuff like that. So just to explain, One Last Hope is, from what I remember, a 3-drop action in Steel, which is singable, by the way, and you essentially give a character the ability to challenge ready characters and +2 challenge. And I think it also cantrips. I think it does draw you a card. So you just play it. You play on the Scar. You play this. They can't be challenged. Oh, sorry, they can't be damaged in a challenge. And you just wipe your opponent's board. You just keep going ping, 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 ping. And it kills Chernobog. Chernobog's a big body and it's relevant. Albeit, will you get to that late in the game to make it worth it? Probably not. But who cares? No, I'm joking. In other cards, however, this is really solid for Maui Half Shark. Sure, they can't rest for the turn. Sorry, they can't quest for the rest of the turn, but you can essentially use it numerous times throughout a thing, where you just go, screw it, sing together, readied, screw it, sing together, readied, swing, sing together. He gains value. It's a similar boat as Pirate's Life, pun intended, where he does gain value from this, and you do get to kill multiple things, and he'll probably live on the crackback, which is a good thing for Maui Half Shark. Maui Half Shark is not an easy card to kill, so I like it. I like this, like, in general. So, moving on to Sapphire, though, and outside of our first card that's in thingy, moving on to our 1-drops. So we have Little Sister. So when you play this character, move up to 1 damage from one chosen character. It's Timon. It's the rabbit. It's not good. Cool. The reason being is because of the 1 mana 1/2 that heals, and those things just aren't really worth it. You want better effects. Anita Radcliffe. When you play this character, you may give chosen puppy character resist 1 until the start of your next turn. The problem is that I really wish Thunderbolt was a puppy and not just a big dog. So Thunderbolts is your bodyguard in the puppy build, and if he was a puppy, there would be a lot more like incentive to play him, but he's just not, and it's really unfortunate because he has a good stat line, and giving him resist 1 would be quite good because you can just go turn 1 puppy, one of the new ones, turn 2 puppy, turn 3 play that, turn 4 Nita, and then they're just going oh bugger. So yeah, I don't think it's that good. Sir Palinor, when his character question, other characters gain support this turn. The Alice in Wonderland legendary, the Alice legendary didn't see play. This won't see play. It's cute. It just won't see play. The Mouse Queen. It's a vanilla. This is an alright draft card. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a vanilla card. Vanilla cards are just kind of whatever for the most part. So, moving on to Wasabi, a 3/5 support. This might be good in blue yellow. Outside of that, I don't think it's any better than Maximus. Maximus just did the job but better. It's just a better stat line, and he just quests for the same. And he's a 4/5 with bodyguard for 5. So yeah, this doesn't even see play in that build. That's the main reason. It's just not a good stat line for support, and it's cute, but it's not good. Television set. So pay 1, tap this, look at the top. If it's a puppy character, reveal it. Otherwise, put it to the bottom. Puppies just aren't relevant enough, and puppies just aren't good enough, in my opinion, to make a splash. I'm going to get beat by a puppy deck in a DLC one day, and I'm going to be like, what the hell just happened? Because I was talking smack about it. So, yeah. Pouncing practice. Chosen character gains -2 power this turn. Chosen character of yours gains evasive this turn. This is quite cute. This is quite cute for certain things. The problem is that there's not really enough targets at the moment in blue that you want to give evasive that have good power stat lines. A lot of blue stat lines and retrospectively don't have good like power stat lines. It's there to help kill Diablo. That's pretty much the main reason. There is a cute thing with it. I wish it was a song, because it would be really, really cute to be able to run this in like muses, and then you just go, okay, you get negative power and then you get bounced back to hand. That's quite cute, but it just doesn't really work. So, Jumba 1/6 that quest for 2. This is Hiram of 1/6 for 4. That's inkable. That quest for 2. No, it's not. No, this is bad. This is also another bad card. Yeah, we've had Hiram Flavisham. Card got banned. They tried to make budget Hiram Flavisham. This is part of Hiram Flavisham at home. Like, look, he's even looking into like a binocular. He's looking at items. But Hiram Flavisham is out of the water because he's that good. This can't be good. No, but genuinely, there are 1/6 quest for 2. It's just not a good stat line. It dies pretty feasibly to a lot of things. So similar to Adelaide. A 2/3, there are cards that literally have this stat line and have an effect on it. You want a card with an effect on it. That's pretty much it for the 1-drops. Moving on to our 2-drops, however, and hopefully something better. So Nanny, Restless, chosen character gains with this too. I actually quite like this card, I will be brutally honest. I think it's cute, the fact that you can give something resist 2, like a Calhoun in blue steel, and then you just go, oh, brilliant, I'm going to have my Calhoun hit your thing and kill it. And your character with the name of Lilo gain support is not that good. The problem is it's reliant on a character that only has 1 card that has ever been... now has 2 cards that have been relevant... Oh no, 2? 3. 3 cards that have been relevant in the meta. That being the set 1 Lilo, the set 5 Lilo, the set 6 Lilo, and this set 8 Lilo that's coming out. But the problem is that the set 6 one is in yellow, the set 1 one is also in yellow, and the set 7 one is in blue. So, yeah. It's a cute card, and I love the flavour of it. Is it good? No. Mrs. Pot. banish one of your items to draw a card. I think there's another card that was revealed today that has a very similar premise. Not today, but revealed back in the day a little bit, that has a very similar premise to this. I wish it was when it quested. If I'm going to be honest, I don't wish it was on an act ability, or else it would be more valuable. I just don't think it's that good. Anna, when you play this character, if you have a character named Elsa in play, put the top card of your deck into Inkwell face down and exerted, or you may. Mickey Mouse saw play, and the reason it saw play is because it ramped on 3. The problem with the Anna is that it's reliant on you having an Elsa, and Elsa doesn't really have many good cards that are really early on in the game. I think it's very rare. They're trying to push this build where you run like the whole Anna Elsa card package, which is cool. I like it. I like this build concept. I just wish there was a better card early on in the game that made it worth it. It's just missing parts, but it's getting there. Olaf. So that's the reason why I have it as a 2, because there is a shift line to it. Olaf, when you play this character, chosen opposing character gets -1 power this turn. A 2/1 stat line is pretty decent. I think it's better than a 1/2 stat line sometimes. And also, the second counterpoint is that this works in Under the Sea. In that being blue, the blue-green build. Well, not Under the Sea, but you know what I mean. The Bend to My Will deck, where you essentially just put stuff underneath the deck, and you're just like, yeah, that's not bad actually. That's quite nice. Or you just keep returning it back to their opponent's hands. It's cute. Unfortunately, there isn't any 1-drop songs in the game as of yet that really work with it, so that's the only reason why I can't put it any higher. I think it still remains quite low. It's in the middle ground of like the tier 2 cards, in my opinion. Atlantean Crystal. So pay 1, chosen card gets resist 2 and support until the start of your next turn. So Restless pay 2. It's a late game card. It is a very late game card, and I can actually see this getting teched into cards, or into decks in particular. The problem with it is that it's kind of a dead draw in the early game to an extent. So it's nice to have it inkable. Support and resist. I don't think there's many times that you really want to be like, oh, this is going to be good to give my random like Cahoon support, because Cahoon, or the thing that you're giving resist, is either going to be something you want to quest with, which isn't bad. You know, you quest, you give something else the power, and then you use that to kill, or you want it to like trade nicely, and that's good. That is a good way to trade. I just don't think you gain as much board advantage by giving something the support and resist to. I wish if it's something like give chosen character resist 2, then give chosen character support. I think that would be better. I can't see it seeing play. I can see it being teched. I can genuinely see the card being used, and I can see a list that runs as like a one-of to make some interesting plays where you can give support to like Maui Half Shark, or resist to Maui Half Shark after he swings into something. So I will admit, maybe I am like actually rating this card a little bit worse than it probably is. But yeah. Bow's favourite book, though, I do think it kind of fits into this notion. I don't think there's really a deck that likes this card yet. There is a really cool concept with this card, though, where you run Oswald, you run Maurice's Workshop, and you kind of just put cards into your Inkwell with this card, and then you flip the top, and then hopefully it's like a lucky dime. You're like, holy moly, slam down lucky dime. I'm on 4 ink. Let's go, baby. You know, that kind of stuff. But I just don't think it fits there yet. It's getting there. It's getting there. It's a little bit by little bit. Down in New Orleans is very close to being decent. The problem is you need to know the top X amount of cards of your deck, and I think the only card that really does that off the top of my head is the Bosses on a Roll. So something in Blurple. And if you're looking at 6-drop Blurple cards, the problem is you want either to hit Tamatoa, or you want to hit a good card. You either want to hit Tamatoa, Maui Half Shark if you're not playing Blurple, or if you are playing Blurple, you can't really hit that many other good targets. Like the Hades is not a 6-drop, it's a 7-drop. So if it was a top 3, play a card. pretty good. Of like 7 or less, pretty good. But yeah, there will be some times where this card just pops off and someone's like, what the hell is this? But there's also, I think most of the time, this card's going to be like a little bit of dead weight. It's a cute one-off. I think this is a cute one-off in a few couple of builds, and people just won't expect it. The fact that you can play out a mana for free is pretty good. The fact that you can play out another Maui for free is pretty good. So I can see people trying to do the concept where you play this, or you play Maui, you use Maui to sing this, you gain a lore, and then you just keep trying to get value from consistently playing this by sacking it into sacking Maui into something, playing it again, just keep going. So I think it has some merit behind it. It probably is closer to a 3, and I can understand people's tier lists if they say this is better. But when I initially thought about it, I was like, I don't think I want to gamble. I think I want to be more on the idea of having cards, which I'm like, yeah, I know what I'm playing, I know what I'm playing into, and I know how to react with the cards that are in my hand over potentially getting the cards, or potentially a top 3 for a card that might be good or might be worse. There's times that this card pops off, there's times where this card doesn't. I think it kind of fits the same motion as Robin Hood Sharpshooter, where they both make a deck in and of itself. And that's really it. There is a really cool concept where you could run red-blue, Maui Half-Shark, Robin Hood, like Sharpshooter. You play out Dragonfires and all this kind of jazz. And you play down in New Orleans, you hit it, your top 3, you play your Maui Half-Shark. And that's a cool list. So I want to see someone try and build that. Rogue Fort. When this character quest, you may put chosen item into its player's ink well face down exerted. It's just item hate. We like item hate. Buried Away was a good card. This is a good card as a one-off in builds because it also comes with a body. That's pretty much it. We've seen this card before, and that's the main reason why it's runnable. So, moving on to our 3s. We only have 3 of them. Heads Held High. I love this card. I love this card so much because there's a concept that you just turn 5, just play this, and then you go, okay, good luck. Under the Sea. Thumbs up. Yeah, no, this card's good. This card's really good. The fact is that you can sing together. You can give -3 to all of your opposing characters, and then you just have like double muses to start bouncing back and being annoying. So just to explain, the only card that really works with it is muses. And the Under the Sea build, so it's only really relevant in blue-green. It means that blue-green can pivot into like this really hard style gameplay where they just go, we're going to run 4 copies of this, 4 copies of Under the Sea, 3 copies of Bend to My Will, and you kind of just go for this hate deck, and this can be in there. This can genuinely make that deck become a thing, which is going to be interesting. I'm interested to see how this is run. But moving on to our next card, the Wardrobe. 4 mana, 3/4. You can rest this, discard an item, draw 2 cards. I think that I'm rating this a little bit highly. I think this is more of a 2.5. People will run this. People will try this out because Hyman was a good card, wasn't it? So this is kind of in the same notion where you're not gaining lore, but you are gaining card advantage, and you're hoping that this does like live for turns. So you'll probably play it like a couple of times. I think the most times that you'll probably get card draw of it is like you'll probably get 4 cards out of it. The longer it lives, the better it is, if you know what I mean. Because the longer you draw, the more you draw cards from this, the better it becomes. Because it just becomes a tap to play. What's the name of it? What's the card? Friends on the Other Side. It just becomes a Friends on the Other Side that you tap every single turn. So, Go Tambigo. When a Floodborn character is played onto this, you can put the top card of your deck face down and exerted. This is good because of the Floodborn. It's a 1/3 as well. 1/3s are kind of annoying to get rid of. And I do like the Floodborn characters. I do think Floodborn characters are pretty good. I wish it had a bit more support, and I think there is a Go Tamago, as a spoiler alert, that I quite rate highly, and this is in that like notion of cards. So yeah, that's pretty much like my reasoning for it. As for the 4s, I've got a few 4s. Spoiler alert, I don't have any 5s. I don't think there's really any 5s in this one. So, Geppetto. When this character quests, you can discard any number of items to gain 1 lore for each item discarded this way. This is sick. This is really good with Tamatoa. You play this, you play Tamatoa, you gain your 2 corpuscles back, you gain 4 lore just straight up, and sure. The thing is that with something like Tamatoa, you want to play the items after, which makes sense. But helps close out the game. I think this is a good card. I genuinely want to see it being ran. I can see a list which this is ran into. I can also see a list where this is just not run into, but this is in the item build. This will be in an item build where someone will try and break it. If it had Fortisphere, imagine this in Blue Steel when it was dominant before like Fortisphere got banned. That would be incredible. I think this card fits quite well into Blue Steel. I wish there were. I'm glad that there isn't another item which is like a cantrip for 1. So yeah, Ratigan. I think this might be rated a little bit highly because of the fact that I just like its stats. I think it's a good stat line. I think Mufasa does a better job than it, but every single turn you're going to be putting cards into your Inkwell. This kind of helps accelerate the game for green-blue, red-blue. You need something to accelerate the game at the end game, and this helps it. So that's why I put it as a 4 As a 4, I think it will become a 2 of in some decks, maybe a 1 of in some decks. I don't think I would see it ever being a 4 of in a deck unless you're like really looking for the idea of going turn 8 or turn 7 or 6, depending on what your line is. Playing Ratigan, the turn after going Lucky Dime for Ratigan, right? And gain 8 lore. But the ward is annoying. The ward is actually really annoying to fight against. So that's like a big reason as well. Stitch, when you play this character, each opposing player puts a top card of deck face down into Inkwell as exerted. So there's a bit of benefit, bit of a drawback for the fact that it can be played out for free. So at the start of your turn, if this is in your discard, you may discard a card with the power symbol, with the lore symbol on it, or not the lore symbol, the inkable symbol on it, to play this character for free, and he enters play exerted. This is really cute and flavorful with the Scapy Artist for Lilo. If you don't know what that is, it's a amber card which it is inkable, which is relevant for this, where it will essentially play itself out for free. Just to note as well, if you are playing those together in conjunction, you can't discard the Lilo and Stitch and then play them both together. You have to be able to play with the Lilo has to be in bin before the start of turn to essentially make this work, right? So the reason why it's a 4 is because recursion's pretty good. I think this is a list that works well in red-blue. The concept is that it doesn't matter late on in the game if your opponent is playing a deck that has a bunch of cards like this, just a bunch of Inkwell, because for the most part, it doesn't often matter, if I'm going to be brutally honest. It's rare that the amount of cards in your Inkwell become very, very relevant the longer the game goes on. Because you're essentially going to be playing almost everything you want to play, right? So that's like the main reason why this card kind of, in the late game, becomes better over time. Because you're just swinging with something with Mary Half Shark, discard something, discard develop your brain to play this, right? Yeah, that's pretty much how I see it. It's cute. It's a cute build. And if you're playing against Steel discard, this is the card that you want to discard, right? So you don't want to play it, you want to cheat it. And that's why it's up there. It could honestly be a 3, if I'm going to be brutally honest. It could be worse. It could be better. That is pretty much it. Moving on to our next card, Jasmine. The reason why this is a 4 isn't really because of the whole fact that it has its resisting. The resisting is actually pretty good, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. It's because of the shift line. The shift line's really good in this. So when you play this character, you can give another character resist. It's cute. You can give it onto a Calhoun. Swing in with Calhoun. Nice. But the fact is that it is a better shift target for 1-drop over the 1-drop from the previous few sets ago, where I think it was set 4. There's a Jasmine in blue, which is like a 1/2 heal, where she's like walking through the palace. I can't remember the name of it, but that's off the top of my head. She's inkable as well. But the only reason this is because I think the Jasmine in blue is really, really good in blue steel. So yeah. As for the 5s, spoiler alert, I don't have any 5s. I don't think the Sapphire has any cards, which I'm like, this is incredible. This is like instantly amazing, right? If I recall correctly, though, I believe Steel actually does have one. So we'll get to that when we get to that. But talking about Steel, let's talk about our 1 cost, or like our 1 stars. So, Monterey Jack, it's a 4/5 bodyguard. Pluto does the job, but better. Prince Ahmed. So, when you play this character, you may exert chosen Prince's character. No, Princess just isn't a build at the current point in time, so it doesn't make it work. Atitaya. Sorry, the card's like a 1.5 because of the fact there is a chance that Princess build eventually becomes a thing, but that's not going to be for a very long time. Atitaya, 7/7/7, quest for 3. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's not as good. It's just not runnable. Like the vanilla stat lines for big things. If you're playing big things, you want those big things to have effects on them. You don't want them to be vanillas. Bobby, this card is actually kind of good. It's decent for. So what I mean by kind of good is that unfortunately in the meta that it's going to be running into during set A, it's really bad for Steel Song. It can trade up, but the thing is that most of the things that you'll be playing on 3 against it that are good are going to be like Fox and stuff like that, which can deal with it. Even a rabbit can deal with this, and that's not really the best. So, okay, sorry about that. Just had some food. Moving on to our next card, however. So moving on from Bobby, if I didn't really explain Bobby, the reason. Well, no, I did explain Bobby, didn't I? Moving on to our next card, however, Khan. It's a vanilla 2/7. Yeah, we don't really rate the vanillas. Zipper. If you have a character named Monterey Jack in play, you can play 1 less to play this character during your turn. This character gains evasive. There needs to be a good 1-drop Monterey, even if it's just like Monterey. There needs to be a good 1-drop, because playing this on 2 would be really good. Playing this anywhere else is kind of bad. It's good if you play Monterey on 1, this on 2. Yeah, at that point it can essentially become a 2. But I don't think it's that good. Ariana, so I mean Ariana Grande right here, right now is a 1. It's because she's a vanilla. As we've said, vanilla stuff just isn't really ran or isn't worth it. It's been a very, very long time in the game since the vanilla cards have actually been kind of relevant. So, yeah. And then Toby Turtle. I think this card's actually really cute. There was the idea of potentially running it as, like, putting it at a 2 instead of a 1. The problem about Toby Turtle, however, is that the Troubadour just does his effect but better. So you don't really have a slot in Steel that wants to really use this, especially like Steel Song. Steel Song doesn't want to use this. You have better slots for 2. I think a lot of decks don't really want to use this on 2. It might eventually become kind of relevant, but I think it's going to take a very long time for that to really happen. So it's a cute fill-in card, if anything. Moving on to our 2s, we've got quite a few 2s actually. So we have got General Lee. So here is a 2/4 with resist 1. It's a cute card. I don't really know what else to really say about it. The problem is that General Lee is the resist 1 tag is quite nice on a 2/4 because you can trade into a couple of things. You can hit into a mem. Unfortunately, it won't kill a mem, but it does live on the swing back. It does live on the swing, or if it gets hit by mem. So there's that kind of niceness to it. I will admit it is more likely a 1 than a 2. So yeah. Captain Hook, we've seen this card before. This card is good. I think this card will remain relevant upcoming, and he's a card that every single time I'm making a build and I'm like Steel, I think, do I want to run him? He's kind of in there. So a Challenger 3. I mean, the 3 swing isn't bad. We have a new Captain Hook, which is actually pretty decent as well, actually. So he does have a good shift target. The only problem I have with this card, obviously we've had the playtesting with it, but the other big problem with this card is that he has better artwork in set one. He has a much better artwork card. I'll throw it up on the screen somewhere if anything. He just looks better. He looks more menacing on his like set one card. So, but it's nice to see this card is being reprinted. I would prefer the set one card art, but yeah. Dump truck. I like the concept that you can just ping a character. That's cute. For one as well, a 1 mana 0/1 that just pings something. You kill Diablo. There are certain times in the game where it's a little bit awkward. With cards in general, sometimes you just don't want to ping them because you don't gain any value unless you kill. So, with cards that include Rapunzel, or you include stuff that's like the Mad Mim engine, stuff that bounces, stuff that draws. Yeah. Funnily enough, there's really dump trucks. What's her face? Bambi. What's his face? Bambi. Because the idea is that you just play this, player priority, ping the Bambi, and they're just like, oh, I guess I lose. Which is kind of funny. Magic Carpet. It's a vanish. All your other illusions gain Challenger +1. I think the problem is that for the vanish targets, this is probably one of the weaker ones. It's this, and there's another card in this set which I think are just weak cards that have vanish. There are some good cards that have vanish, but I think this kind of fits into the same boat as like Raja, a little bit. I think it's a little bit worse than Raja. It doesn't fit the Iago bill. What's the other one? Like Iago's pretty good. I mean Iago's really good, but that's because of other cards that work and synergize with him. And then I think it's like there's the new Palace card which I think is really good, but outside of that, I don't think there's really many good vanish cards. So unfortunately, it doesn't really see the light of play that it probably will get. But I think it needs to have a little bit of a better stat line for it to make it worthwhile. Moving on to our second group of cards, Vincenzo Santorini. When you play this character, you may deal 3 damage to the chosen character. It kind of just kills something. But the stat line is good. It does, unfortunately, during set 8, die to Brawl. But this is also a good card in Mufasa. If you're playing Mufasa, you're probably playing this card, right? If you play Steel Mufasa, where you just, if it flips off the top, you just kill like a Mim Fox or something like that, or you kill one of your opponent's characters, most likely, because a lot of cards really don't have that much health. So that's a good card. Iago, once another character is exerted in play, this character can't be challenged. It's like a reverse bodyguard to an extent, where Iago doesn't have bodyguard, but the other cards do. And I think that's quite nice. In an aggressive steel build, yeah, he is worthwhile. I like this concept that you can play him, you can play Mufasa, and then you have to make sure you kill the Mufasa first, and then it feels kind of bad. So I think this is a card that does sort of slot into Mufasa. So, yeah. Vinny, during an opponent's turn, whenever one of your other characters is banished, gain 1 lore. This is cute with against B-Trap. I think if this card gets run at all, it's run as a one-off. I don't think it's run as anymore. The reason being is because when you're running these cards as a one-off, it's more for the tech option. It's like there was a purple Hades that was run in the last set because of the fact that B-Prep allowed you to gain a bunch of lore. This might actually fit into the same boat. So, they both die, you just gain a bunch of lore. Yeah. Genie, so during your turn, this character gains evasive. Yeah, it's a stat line. It gains evasive. It can see play because it's evasive, if you get what I mean. It's because the stat lines are good. It kills things in Cove, like Diablo, stuff like that. So it has some relevancy. So yeah, that's pretty much it with that. With those ones in particular. As for the other cards, so Hamster Ball, pay 1 resist, chosen character with no damage gains resist 2 until the start of your next turn. This is cute with Calhoun, where you just go, oh, brilliant, we'll just play this in 3, turn 4, just use it to kill something with Calhoun. Or even if you wish to, if you're playing Steel, you swing on something with Calhoun or like another 2-drop of some description. And then you play your Mim Fox, and then your Mim Fox very likely lives because she'll just swing into something and probably take 1 damage, maybe 2, a majority of the time. which is pretty good actually. Just give him resist 2 until the start of your next turn. Should probably live on the crackback as well for a little bit. Quick shot. I put it as a 2 because it's a deal 1 damage draw card. This is only relevant if Vanish becomes if illusions become a thing. Right, if illusions are a thing, this is the relevant part on how to fight it. This and Twin Spell and other cards. But yeah, no, this is up there. But it's also up there because it's a draw card. It's just a draw card for 2, and still don't have a crazy amount of draw cards. So, Stitch, during your turn, whenever this character banishes another character, you may draw a card and gain a lore. That's cute. Gaining lore and drawing cards, that's cute. Thumbs up. I like that. That's adorable. It's not that good. It kind of does the same notion as Robin Hood. The problem is that Robin Hood does the job better for the same amount of damage. I wish this quested for 1 more. I just wish it quested for 1 more for that 4 stat line, or gain 2 lore instead. It might be cute to run in with Calhoun. I think Steel Build can find a slot for this. Pardon me. A slot for this if they really, really wanted to go into it, but I don't think it's going to make the cut. And I think this is the same as the Mickey Mouse. So the problem with the Mickey Mouse is it's a fun card. It's a funny card. I like this concept of having just a giant body that quests for 5 every turn. The problem is that there's only 1 build in the game that really wants to do this like cheese strategy where you kill your own Mickey, like the 2-drop Mickey on turn 3, play this huge Mickey, and every single turn after you're just going, I'm going to quest for 5, 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 right? But it's a deck and a card that only works in niche scenarios, and players who aren't paying attention or enough attention know exactly what that card's going to do. So it'll probably die. The likelihood is going to die. There's relevancy in Dragon's Fire now, so this is also another card that kind of kills it later on in the game. I don't think it lives for long enough, but the fact that it, like, whenever it's banished, even if it's during your turn, deal 5 damage to it's essentially a board wipe. It's super close to a board wipe. That's not bad. I like it. It's a good card. In that retrospect, do I think it's going to make the cut? No, I think it's way too costed, and I think it takes a bit too much time to really hit there. But I like the fact that they're like thinking about that and they're doing that. Moving on to our 3s, I've only got 2 cards in there. The first one is Desperate Plan. If you have no cards in hand, draw until you have 3. Otherwise, ditch your hand and draw up to it. So it's only really good if it's the 1 card that's in your hand, because it's a draw 3, right? Do I think it's good if you're drawing, like, discarding a bunch of cards to draw a bunch of cards? Not really. Like, the big problem with Desperate Plan is that it's a graceful charity. I think this has to be a card that also draws 1 as well if you're doing the second effect right. But I think the first effect, the first half of it, where you're playing an aggressive build and you're like, I'm gonna this is good in purple steel, because you just go, okay, I've got like no cards in hand, I'll just draw 3 cards, right, for 3. It becomes it's like a 1 cost draw 3, or a 3 cost draw 1 in some retrospect if you think about it in the comparison of friends on the other side with us. But no, in an aggressive build, Purple Steel especially will probably find a 1-place slot for this. And I like that. It's cool. It's a cool card. Nathaniel Flint. So you can't play this character unless an opposing character was damaged this turn. People are going to try this as like the Mr. Smee clone, right? Like, Mr. Smee rotates out, this character comes in, and people are going to try him. I'm also glad he got a card. I love the design of Nathaniel Flint, and I'm glad that something was finally given to him. And I think this card's actually not too bad. Steel Song might like this. The problem is that Mr. Smee is better until rotation, because he gets rotated out, right? And he's in there somewhere, but I just don't think he really hits the cut. Hence why he's in the 3. He's a tech option for certain builds, but I don't think he's there yet. Blue Steel might like him, where you do the whole bow line, where you just sing something. But you need to let all the stars align to make it really work. But a 3 mana that quests for 2. Sorry, a 3/3 2 mana that quests for 2. And worst case scenario, if you know you're not going to damage anything, you're just going to income. It's not bad. So, moving on to our 4s, I do only have one 4, which is the Namari legendary. So when you play this character at the start of your turn, when you play this character and at the start of your turn, you may draw and discard. That's not really the relevant part of it. The relevant part is this character gains 1 for each card in your discard, so 1 power. That's good. That's really good. If you don't know, by turn 5, the likelihood of Namari, in terms of power-wise, she's probably going to be like I don't know, trying to think. It's probably like a 4/5, maybe a 3/5 when you play her. So she's going to be out of ball range. But the thing is, for decks that play stuff like A Whole New World, for the fact when you play her, she filters in, and at the start of the turn she filters. She essentially becomes this big beat stick. I think there are a couple of cards which deal their characters like power to another character. If there was one that just did that to the whole opposing board, that would be really good. That would make this card a lot better. I don't think it's there yet, but I like this card. I like this concept, and I think it's something that I want to test around with and give it a go, because there's something that's so close to being like kind of good about this, if you get what I mean. And then moving on to our 5, Beyond the Horizon. So this is the Lilo and Stitch song. I believe this is the Hawaiian Roller Coaster Ride song. So sing together, choose any number of players, discard their hand, and draw 3 cards. They discard their hands and draw 3 cards each. In a world, there is a world in Steel Emerald where this card is ran. And I think it's immediately ran into discard. The reason being is because you do something like A Whole New World, and then like this can even work in Steel Song as well. You do something like A Whole New World, you get a bunch of card draw from Prince John, and then you use Beyond the Horizon to make it that you are playing your opponent off their back foot. And what I mean by that is that it's going to be harder for someone to play the game when they only have 3 cards in hand and you have an additional 4. I think this card's good. I think this card's solid. People really dislike discarding their hands, and that is a big reason as to why. The fact that you're playing on 3 cards is a huge detriment. You can also play it on a back foot if you're feeling like you're quite far behind, in Steel Song especially. Because there's certain games of Steel Song where you're just there like, my opponent's drawing a bunch of cards. I actually had it today in my store champs where an opponent in one of the games I was having was drawing more cards than me on our second game, and I just felt like this card would be a really good card to include, or would have been a really good card to have in hand, because I just go, okay, you're going to discard like 8 cards that you have in hand, and I'm going to discard 1, but I'm still going to get more benefit because I'm drawing 3 cards, right? Even if I am going wide. But yeah, that's pretty much what happened. That is pretty much how this card feels, and there is some good stuff to it, and there's some like not so good stuff to it. So yeah, I think it's a 5. I think there's a multitude of decks that this does actually fit into, even if it's just a one-off. I can see this game played a lot. It's a cute card as well. I mean, the artwork's adorable. So yeah. Moving on from Steel, and we're finally onto our multicolors. So this one's going to be a bit of a long one, if you know what I'm like. So I have put down a bunch of cards. I didn't actually put that many cards down in for my 1 slots, in all honesty, and I think some of these might actually not even be 1 slots. So, Blue Fairy, Blurple, Evasive Support. Cute. The problem is that the Blue Fairy in set 2 was a lot better than this. Yeah. So the thing is, if you're running it in Blurple, you don't really get that much chance to have an evasive support do much, and this is kind of like a thing to it. So yeah, Lena Sabaroing, I just butchered that name. Deal 1 damage to chosen character. So this is just Robin Hood with evasive. The ping one from like a few sets ago. I think it was like set 3, or set 2, where it's the Archer one where you just tap it to ping. That didn't see play. This probably won't see play. There is a cute build with it, but the fact is, if it was green steel, it would probably have more merit to it. Choose your person. Remove 3 damage from a chosen character. Remove 3 damage from all characters with bodyguard. If only bodyguards was good. Bodyguards isn't good. This card isn't that good. I will eat my words if someone does make a really good bodyguard deck, but I just don't think there's something with bodyguard that works currently. So yeah. Bolt, this character enters exerted, and he's a 0/4. This card is bad. I'm going to be honest. Your opponent can pretty much have like a good concept of being able to deal with this. It just dies of too many things. It's rare that it's going to live. If it does, it's really good. If this lives a turn, it's very, very good. The problem is, I kind of wish it was if it was for like 2 and it was uninkable, because that would make it extremely playable. That would be like a 4 in a deck. But this deck kind of just doesn't fit for Steel Song. When the next set comes out, probably, because this will probably be a help for shift target onto the next bolt, but it's not really up there at the moment. And then Pua, it's a 3 mana 2/2 that when it's banished, you may draw a card, and it has bodyguards. Oh, that doesn't do anything. The problem is, I wish it was a 2 mana 2/2 instead of a 3 mana 2/2. Then it actually have some relevancy. I don't think it's relevant enough to really be a 2 mana, a 3 mana 2/2. I don't even think a 2 mana 2/2 is that playable for a bodyguard that can draw you a card. We've had cards that are like this, and I understand why it's a 3 cost because it has the bodyguard tag onto it, but it doesn't really have anything else like that. So yeah. Moving on to our 2 stars though, and this is where we do have quite a lot of them from what I remember. So King Candy. Whenever this character is banished, you may return chosen racer card, another racer card, bear in mind, from your discard to your hand. The reason for this is so you can't just keep looping King Candy, which makes sense. It makes perfect sense. I like this because it kind of recurs, and you can get to a point where you just banish. You keep having him die. If there's another, King Candy in your bin, you just grab him and you keep going, right? The problem with him is that he just doesn't really do anything, and it's really unfortunate. Moving on, well, what I mean he doesn't really do anything is that if he was a 2 mana 2/2 that had this effect, yeah, okay, sure. I think it would have more relevancy, or just a 2 mana in general, uninkable, it would have more relevancy, right? But it just doesn't seem to have any like easy merit for it, and you need multiple things to die. And the problem with races is there isn't enough cards that just send stuff to bin from races themselves to make it work, if you get what I mean. Because races, the idea is that you slam into something and then bring them back, and it just doesn't make sense at the current point in time. Car, when his character quests, chosen opponent character gains -2 and Reckless. This is a cool card. I think this card's really sick as a one-off tech option in Churner Dogs. I also think this card's really clever in a concept of Under the Sea, or, you just use it with like the Muses or something like that. But I think there is a build that kind of works with this. That's just a bit more aggressive, a bit slower than Churner Dog, and Churner Dog wants to go fast with a little bit of zoo element in it, so it can have that mid-range game. I don't think it hits into Chernobog. I think it is a tech option for that deck though, and I think for any other deck out there, I don't think it makes the cut yet. I think eventually there will be a deck that this card is really good in though. Rotation, I think this card will actually be a bit of a standout. Minnie Mouse, Daring Defender. At the current point of play for set 8, this card is not good. This is the other card that has the +1 damage for each, +1 power for each damage on her, and that's cool. That's really cute. The problem is she only works in Mufasa. She doesn't really have a build that works in any other retrospect, from what I can tell from the top of my head. There's not many cards in red and yellow which are like, oh yeah, this is good. Because if you're healing stuff, that's cool, but she doesn't really get much power from being healed. So she does have the same problem as the previous card, even with the bodyguard, where if damage is dealt to her, sure, but she does eventually run out of steam, like quite quickly as well, because of the fact that she doesn't have a way to return damage back easily, unless you're swinging in with her when she has damage. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword in how she works. Antonia Madrigal, I'm going to be honest, I think this card is probably a 3, but the reason I have it as a 2 is because of the color coordination. So, once during your turn, whenever one of your characters sings a song, you may search your deck for a character with 3 cost or less, reveal it, and add it to hand. Put that card into your hand and shuffle your deck. I think this card's cool. I really like the concept of this card. The problem with it is that it eventually, I think Amber and Amethyst at the current time of play don't have that many great songs outside of Friends on the Other Side, and there is that like one cheeky song which allows you to draw a card and gain a lore, which could be cute with Antonio, because you kind of like draw a card, gain a lore, search a 3-drop, right? And then you kind of search in your next play preemptively. So there is likely an aggressive build which works with that. If it was green instead of yellow, I understand why it's yellow, because it's the Madrigals and the Bruno's the green one of it because he's the quote-unquote villain. I get it. I just don't think there's cards that make it worthwhile yet. I can see a build that does run this though. It'll be interesting. You can see a build that runs this where you can use him to sing like a 4-drop song, and then you'll have to search for Madam Mim Fox, then you can play Fox and swing with it, and then play like a 2-drop on the same vein. So yeah, there's some cute stuff for it. I like this idea of tutoring. I don't think it's good enough yet though, but it's getting there. It's getting there. It's close. Next one is Only So Much Room. So this is another tech option for when you're playing against Chernodog. So return chosen character with 2 power less to their hands. Return a chosen character from your discard to your hand. So because it's a 4, you're probably only going to run this as a 1-off, and you are just using it to disrupt your opponent in the same vein as Car. Car is probably better because you are making it that your opponent's big unit will, like a Chernobog, will essentially stop questing for a bit. So I think Car is more valued than this card, but it's a tech option for fighting against Chernodog. You can have some really cool things where you could just go, okay, sure, I'll play Tramp, I'll bounce him, I'll play Tramp again, and gain some tempo off that. But outside of that, it's really it. Pluto, 2/7. Oh, pardon me. While this has no damage, he gains +2 power support. 6 mana, 2/7. Not bad. No, but genuinely to actually give off a little bit of understanding to why I don't think he's that good, why I've rated him as a 2, is because we have a Pluto that's almost the exact same stat line, quests for 2, and I think he quests for 2, the bodyguard one from set 5, and is a 5/5, which is a better stat line than a 2/7. A 5/5 for 5, that is much better than the stat line for 2/7, can get healed. It kind of does all of the jobs that Pluto is kind of wanting. Sure, Pluto is essentially a 4/7 on the turn it is played, and when he takes damage, he just becomes worse and worse and worse. And the problem is that you're kind of needing him to heal quite easily and efficiently. It might be tagged. It might be tagged because you have the concept where you can swing in with him, or he takes damage, and then you Rapunzel him, and he'll probably kill a couple of things because of the fact he's quite a big body. So yeah. Perdita, a 6-drop 4-shift. When you play this character, you may pull all puppy cards from your discard into your inkwell face down and exerted. This is cute. The enchanted for this is absolutely stunning, by the way. I tried this card. This card only works as a 2-of in the build, and it still isn't good. The idea of it is that you play Perdita after being like, okay, I'll play Patch, I'll play a puppy, I'll play Patch and Perdita, I'll play Perdita, and then I'll play Pongo the turn after because you kill my board most likely, right? And then you get a good kind of like duo stat line, and that's kind of neat, but that's the only thing that puppies do before it runs out of steam. Because you pull the puppies in and then you just play them back out like turn by turn. And yeah, that's essentially it. I don't think it's good. I don't the stat line's good. I will be honest. The stat line for what it is for on a 4 is good. The problem is the colors that it's in. If this wasn't in blue, like blue yellow, I could 100% see this card being ran in another build just because of the stat line being good. If you get what I mean. Like you run the other Perdita not because it's like a 1/4 or such, but because it's gonna shift into something, and then this could be a good card to sing another song that it will be beneficial, right? This doesn't really fit the bill because of the fact it is blue. I think blue just doesn't have enough good cards outside of Let It Go that are on songs that to make it work within these two color coordinations. So there's actually a card in here which is really, really good in blue, but it's in a different color coordination. So, and Patch. This is your turn 1 play for Puppies. Puppies needs long game. This is your long game for Puppies. This is your turn 1 play. Yippee! It's cute. It's a cute card. Is it a good card? No. Is it funny to go turn 1 Patch, turn 2 slam down 2 Patches, quest for 6 after playing on the big on the Puppy Shift? Yes, it is funny. Because your Puppy Shift will also probably live. So yeah. Is having enough of those patches good? Not really. The problem is that other decks do what this deck wants to do, but better, you know? So, it's cute though. It's a cute starting. On to the next card, we have Cusco. So, when you play this character, each opponent chooses one of their characters and puts it onto the the bottom of the deck. Then, each player may draw a card. So, the players don't have to put a character down into the bottom, but they have so they can still draw it if they don't have any characters. The problem with this card is the fact that it just doesn't have enough. Like it needs to be able to be on quest as well. I think it becomes a little bit toxic on quest, but it's better on quest. And you also have a good Cusco in too. So, you know, you have your Cusco that when it gets banished, you can draw cards and you can just, you know, quest it, play it, stuff like that. But I don't think there's like enough Cuscos to make it work. The reason why this is a 2 is because I can see a world where this does become a tiny bit relevant to just be obnoxious and then turn 4 just keep going with obnoxious plays. But that's really it. Magic Dispel. Evasive 3/3. When you play this character, you may return another chosen character of yours to your hand to draw. This is cool with Goat. This is cool with... This is like, you play your Rabbit, you play your Goat, you just bounce it back, you gain a lore, you play it back down. That's cool. That is a cool card. That's a cool card concept. Yeah, outside of that, it's like nothing else is really good with it. That's the only reason why I think this is like a cute card for that specific build. Outside of that, yeah, it's not really worth it. The stat lines are alright. The evasive is pretty good. The fact that it's also quest for 2 is good. The fact that it's on 5 is probably not the craziest thing. The only reason you're wanting to bounce stuff back is if you're digging for answers, or if you are in knowledge that your opponent is going to do something like be prepared and kill your board like the following turn, right? Abu, vanish, and whenever this character quests, gain lore equal to the lore of chosen opposing character. I think most of the time that this card is going to quest for 2 and then die. So yeah, I think this is like a bad vanish. It's a 2 because it's in a vanish build, and I think vanish has some merit behind it. But yeah, that's the reason why this card's bad in my opinion. Madam Medusa. When you play this character, you may deal 2 damage to another chosen character of yours to return chosen character with 2 or less to their player's hand. I think this is good on the play, where you go, okay, I'll play my Broom or play Chernobog, quest of Chernobog, play Snake, sorry, play this the turn after and deal 2 damage to the snake, and then return to just bounce one of your opponent's characters. The problem is it just doesn't really do anything. It's funny because in some extent it also is just another fox that doesn't have rush, because you can just be like, oh, just return one of my characters back after dealing 2 damage, right? Yeah, it's just not really worth it. There are better cards than this. I like the fact it's a May. The fact it's a May is better than being a must. So that's always relevant. Moving on to our next set of cards then, Ice Spikes. So when you play this character, exert chosen opposing character. when you play this item. That's kind of cute. This is a late game card because you want to exert something, right? And then pay 1, exert chosen item. It can't ready at the start next turn. The reason this is here is because it is relevant against Hiram Flavisham. Not Hiram, sorry, Lucky Dime. It's relevant against Lucky Dime. The fact is that you lock your opponent out playing like multiple turns of Lucky Dime, unless they do like the obvious play of just go, well, you're just gonna Ice Spike my Lucky Dime every single turn. So easy way of getting around that is just wait until you play just wait until I want to play Lucky Dime and get the law at the same time, right? Which most players do. That's how it normally works. So yeah, that's the reason why it's not that good. Pull the lever. Either draw 2 or each opponent discards a card. So it's cute. I like the idea that it has 2 different plays to it. This might result in the fact, this might turn into the fact that Friends on the Other Side might not get reprinted because this is also a draw 2 card, versatile card, and it's a cute tag option. And it actually has a whole thing built around it in kind of a cool fashion as well. It's very flavorful. It just isn't that good. Discarding cards is pretty good. Drawing cards is pretty good. But in the same notion as something like Cusco, the card that was last set not ran at all, this kind of fits the same bill where each player discards cards or draws cards depending on what the priority player wishes to do. Right, and this hits the same notion. I don't think it's really going to see play until set rotation actually hits. But outside of set rotation, I don't see this seeing any play. Anna, shift, support. So there is a 3-drop Anna. This shifts onto the 4-drop Anna. When it's character quest, if you have a character named Alster, you may draw a card. Holy moly! You get to draw a card on 4 and probably 5. And to be fair, this card is pretty solid. If I'm going to be brutally honest, like you play Anna, you play Alster. So you play Alster, you play Anna. You shift this Anna, and then the following turn you play Alster. You support to give the 3 power to the 5-drop Alster. And you draw a card, and then you kill something, and the Alster probably lives because it's an evasive. It is pretty good. And the Alster will most likely kill most things on the board. So that's a good card. I do think it is probably a 2.5 instead of a 3, because you do need to. I think it's only good if you're running an Anna underneath it. But yeah. And then Yzma. When you play this character, if you have a card named Pull the Lever in your discard, you may search for the wrong lever and reveal it to all players, put their card into your hand and shuffle. This is just cute flavor text, if I'm going to be brutally honest. I wish Pull the Lever, Wrong Lever had some way of cheating them out instead of it being like this, because this is not good. This is not that great. It's cool that you have a tutor, but there are other cards in the game which tutor for better cards. You know, you have the Mini, you have the Madrigal stuff, you have the Merlin. This also tutors, but not for a card that's really worthwhile. So this Yzma is probably just as good as Pull the Lever and Wrong Lever are. And I don't think that as a package is good enough. So that's why I've put it all as a 2 off, if you get what I mean. Or like a 2. So yeah. Moving on to our next set of cards. So we have Hero Hamada. Restless to ready chosen Bloodborne character. I'm going to be honest, this is probably a 3. I actually quite like this card. I think this is kind of cute. The fact that there are some good Floodborne characters, especially in the Big Hero 6 franchise. You have the hero that was in the set champs. So you have the hero, you have the Go-Go Tamago, you have a bunch of different cards, right? And it kind of makes sense to have a card like this. It's good that it readies it, because it means that you could then, after, replay, like request of the cards and do things with it. It's cute that it was on 2. I think it hits the same notion as like the yokai in set 7, where your shifts are cheaper, sure, but in the same vein, you're probably not wanting to play yokai on. You're probably not wanting to play yokai. You're probably wanting to just shift on the normal line anyway. And the reason being for that is because the only time that yokai benefits from being shifted onto is with the big Baymax. That's pretty much it. So yeah, that's how I would essentially see it. The hero's kind of in the same boat where being a 2-drop is a little bit awkward, but it's also not bad. I like the effect. I like the fact you can just consistently quest for multiple things. You can get a really cool build where you do that, you do it again, you came back and you quest for like 9, but I think Mufasa probably does the deck better, if you get what I mean. So yeah. Queen of Hearts, where you have 5 more damage, while there are 5 more damage with damage in play, 5 more characters with damage in play. This character quests for 6, which is cool. It's really cool if you've played the Queen of Hearts shift. So you do turn 1 Card Soldier, turn 2 Queen of Hearts, turn 3 Queen of Hearts, turn 4 Queen of Hearts. And by that point, there are probably 5 units that have a damage counter on them. And then you quest up for like 9. That's kind of a cool play. But also in the same vein, I don't think it's feasible enough. There is a build around this, and I do want to test it. Because you have this, you have the Alice as well. You know, the Shift 3. Unfortunately, there isn't an Alice in, from what I recall. Please do correct me if I'm incorrect. That is on a 2 to make this worthwhile. So, because whenever she quests, put a damage counter on each other character is actually a very good effect. The reason why it's a good effect is because she lives, if you're going first, she lives to Fox. She kills stuff like Chernobog, like Chernobog's followers. If you're playing against Lady Tramp, she doesn't die to that. She doesn't die to Chernodogs easily. And she kind of just becomes obnoxious eventually. Like, she has to become like a card that you deal with, but you don't want to deal with. So yeah, she's up there. She's up there for being obnoxious and good. I want to test the build. I think there is a build to mess around with, but I don't think it's there yet. Dormouse. When you play this character, you may put 1 damage counter on chosen character. That's cute. That's a cute card. You know? So yeah, I like that. I like that card. I wish it was a 1-drop because it would be better. A 1-drop uninkable would do this more justice, in my opinion. But I get why it's there. For theme deck, they're cute. I like it. I do like the Alice in Wonderland stuff. The Coachman. So this is a red steel card where you have 2 or more characters that are exerted. So once you challenge things, pretty much, this gains 2 and evasive. So it essentially is used there to kill something within like the Hidden Cove, like Diablo and such, which is kind of cool. But the reason why it's a 2 is because it's a tech option within that deck. Because that deck you're going to be swinging. The reason for this deck, which is kind of cool, is that this card in particular allows you to play correctly Return Order. So if you swung with a couple of things and then before swinging with this, you actually play it correctly. If you quest with a couple of things before playing with this, you've played it correctly. It punishes players for playing it like differently, if you get what I mean. So it's a nice ordering card which allows players to learn how to order correctly. LeFou, banish 1 of your items. Chosen opponent loses 1 law and you gain 1 law for 2 mana. That's nice. It's nice for a 2-drop because you just play turn 1 Popsicle. Play this. Turn 3, probably play Maurice's Workshop or something and banish the Popsicle to gain a law and your opponent loses a law. Or if you're getting to a point in Ruby Sapphire where you need something to kind of put your opponent back. Because especially the fact that they play Popsicle and Tamatoa and Maui Halfshark and Pirate's Life, this is a tech option for that build. Primarily, that's where you're really looking at putting this card in. You're probably not looking at putting it into an item-centric build, because this helps the game plan of Red-Blue, pretty much, of playing a slower game to win. So yeah. Honey Lemon. When you play the Floodborn character, if you use Shift, you may return chosen character to their hand. This is kind of close to being obnoxious. Diablo obviously is in green. That's a good one. So it's kind of getting there. The problem is it needs to have some draw cards, right? The reason it's a 2 is because there is some shift patterns which do become annoying, and this is in there. The other problem is that it's a 4. If it was a 3, this would be incredible. When I say incredible, this card would be really good. And when I mean really good, it will be the fact that you can do turn one, whatever the hell you want. Turn like Diablo, I guess. Turn two, Go Go Tamago. Turn three, Honey Lemon. Shift onto Diablo. Turn four, Go Go Tamago, and then you're resulting in like being quite obnoxious to your opponent's board. So I'm glad this is a 4 instead of a 3 drop, because that could make a really obnoxious line. So yeah, I agree with this. It could see some play, honestly, in a different build where you're just not caring too much about the shifts outside of Diablo, and maybe a couple of some other things. But yeah, I think it's in the same boat as like Bucky. The reason why Bucky isn't played anymore is kind of for a similar boat. Don Carnage. So, evasive, and when you play an action that isn't a song, a chosen opposing character gains reckless during the next turn. So there aren't many actions which are ran that aren't songs. And the reason being for that is because you like to cheat songs. Cheating songs is a really, really beneficial way of playing the game because you often draw cards from it, you often have board wipes with it, and you often gain tempo from it because you're not spending mana, right? And due to it, there is only one action off the top of my head that is a song, that isn't a song, that sees play, and that's Fire the Cannons. And Hypnotize, right? Fire the Cannon and Hypnotize. Off the top of my head, I'm probably incorrect, and there is probably a couple more like cards. Bend to My Will is also another one actually that just doesn't have it. That isn't a song. So yeah. Oh, Develop Your Brain as well. But the problem is that this isn't a color that can't run Develop Your Brain. So yeah, I think there's a few cards which it does work with, and there's a few cards which it doesn't work with. So yeah, that's pretty much it. There are more cards that it doesn't work with that are probably more beneficial than the vice versa. So moving on to our last cards of this section now, which are 5 cards. So you have Rolly, or Roly, depending on how you say it. 4 mana, 2/3 support. When you play this character, you may put a character from your discard into your inkwell face down and exert it. So, kind of cool. I'm gonna be honest. And the reason being is because not because of the card itself. Not because of the support element, but the fact that it kind of ramps itself after you essentially go, I'm going to play Tippo, put something in. Tippo will die the next turn most likely anyway, and then play this to put that in there is kind of cool. The problem with it is that the color combination of both of the cards are not good. You really, for a 4, what you really want to be doing is you want like a Chip and Dale line to just work, right? And this doesn't really function with Chip and Dale, and that's really unfortunate. So yeah, I kind of wish there was a Chip and Dale line that was at 1 that wasn't in green. So you could just be like, oh yeah, quite early on, get Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, like turn 5 or turn 6. Not even turn 5 actually, turn 4. And people are like, how the hell do we deal with this, right? And I think this kind of fits under the same notion. So I think that's the only reason why Roly's probably quite good. It's cute in puppies as well. I don't think it's run in puppies. I think it is run in Chip and Dale's adventures, but outside of that, it's really it. Gyro Gear Loose. So evasive, when you play this character, choose an opponent character, gets -3 power this turn. This is only relevant for Sisu. So I'm gonna be honest. The evasive is kind of whatever. The stat line is kind of whatever. It's the -3 power that's only the irrelevant part of it. There's the only relevant part of the card, in my eyes. And the fact that it's inkable, I guess. But Sisu likes this card. You play it on 8, or you play it with like 11 ink, and then you kind of just kill something that your opponent can't really deal with. So yeah. Jeweled color. Whenever one of your characters is challenged, you may put the top card of your deck face down into inkwell and exert it. I wish this was a 1-drop. I so wish this was an uninkable 1-drop because it would be playable as a 1-drop, but it's not because it's unfortunately a bit too slow. The card's cute. I think the card, and I know my friend Dave, if he watches this video, I know exactly what he's gonna say. or I know that he's not going to agree with me on this. I just don't think the card is a good card on turn 2. I think the card's good on later stages of the game, or if it was a turn 1 play, that would be fantastic. Like, we need to have a card like this on turn 1 in red, in green and blue to make it worth it. But I don't think it really fits the mold because you just don't really get it. You don't really get like much benefit from it if you get what I mean. So yeah. Aladdin. So when one of your allies quests, you may remove 2 damage from this character, and as a bodyguard. Unfortunately, the card's kind of dog. Um, I think this is more like a 1.5. The problem is it's a 1/9 bodyguard, and we actually had a really interesting conclusion with Miss Cluck, where people were like, "This card's going to be insane. This card's going to be really, really good," and it was almost the same stat line as this for less, and that wasn't run. I can't see this being ran either, if you get what I mean. Um, in a cute fun deck, Steam decks, yes. In a competitive deck, probably not. Unless allies become super competitive. Light Diffuse, deal 1 damage to each exerted character you haven't played to a chosen character. I think this is a cute one-off. I think part of the reason why I like it so much is because of the artwork. I love the fact that like it's Mushu who's just like firing it off for the avalanche and everything in the Mulan movie. Um, but I do think that dealing 1 damage to a chosen character for each exerted character you haven't played, it only really works if you can't hit one thing, and that's wanting the board wipe. But I think for the most part, it doesn't really work because in Red Steel, you're probably not going wide. You're probably going in. You won't be swinging for wide bits of damage. You'll probably be swinging for less than that. So that's kind of the reason why. But it's a good draft card. I'll tell you that right now. It's a very good draft card. If you're playing draft, at least put this in as like a 2-off maybe if you can find it. Moving on to our 3 drops, and we have a good number. Like these are where a good number of cards will come in. So Alma Madrigal, she builds a deck around herself. So once during your turns, if you sing the Madrigal song, pretty much when I'm going to say this, whenever one of your characters, one or more of your characters sings the song, you may ready those characters. They can quest for the rest of the turn. Just saying, and they can sing again. So you can basically use her to sing that song, the Madrigal one, fantastical, magical, and then play everyone again, and then kind of go from there. But it's the problem with the card is that it just needs something else. It's the problem that Amber Amethyst have. It's the fact that you probably want a card that if you're singing, you're probably going to be singing the I can't remember the name of it. It's in the last set. It's purple. You gain a law, draw a card, and it's like 2 uninkable. That was ran a little bit. You run this with that, and then you just you sing it once. You're ready. You quest with like your piglet or something like that, and just gain some benefit from it. But that's pretty much it. It just doesn't fit what you're wanting to do in the build because of how the color coordination works. I kind of wish there was removal in that color outside of being like the mid-range tempo deck that it is for later store champs. But yeah, that's pretty much how I see it. It's all right. There is a build that will be around it. Someone will make a build that is around this. I think it's more of like a 2.5 than like an actual 3, if you get what I mean. But yeah. Wreck-It Ralph. So, Big Lug. Shift 5. So, there isn't actually that many good Wreck-It Ralphs in early stages. When he quests, and when you play him, you may return chosen character from cost 6 or less, chosen racer character from your discard to your hand. And if you do, gain a lore. So, it's kind of like an on-play gain 2 lore on turn 5, which this is actually really cute if you are running like the speedway stuff, right? The problem is the reason why it's a 3 is that it itself is probably the reason why races might become a thing. Do I think it's the reason why races might be alright? No, I don't think races are going to be good. I don't think they are quick enough, and I don't think they deal with enough things. But I do think there are some cards within Wreck-It Ralph, especially the racer stuff, which do work, in all honesty, and do something. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So it's kind of going to be like an on-play game 3 lore, which is cute. It's a cute thing, and it likely lives unless it gets Zeus or something else like that, right? Bruno Magical. I like this card. I think this card's actually really good. I think this card's very, very solid. So Shift 5, 3/7, so out of brawl range. Whenever this character sings a song, you may draw a card for each card you have in play. So you play it, you sing fantastical and magical, I guess, with another character, and you draw like 5, 6 cards. So he's a good card draw engine. You're probably wanting him to play something that gains you a bunch of lore. The problem is that he's in a dual color, and I wish he wasn't. I want him to not be in a dual color, if you get what I mean. If he was in purple, he would be a lot better. If he was in purple, you would be able to like sing Grab Your Swords or something like that and just cause some havoc with him. Even in Steel Song, this card would be very good in Steel Song if a Bruno card or Amber Green, because there are Bruno cards in Amber Green from what I remember, which would make him work, but he just isn't there yet. So it's almost there. It's almost dead. It just has to be a good Bruno, pretty much. So in the next couple of sets, I think. And then the last one is Ludwig von Drake. This card, I think people are going to rate it more than it probably is. It's a bare necessities on the Grand Matala, right? That isn't inkable. So when you play this character, choose an opponent character, reveals a hand, and discards a non-character card of your choice. And it's also, when this character is banished, you may put this card into your Inkwell face down and exert it. So you're going to question them a couple of times. The problem is that he's disruptive to one extent, but I'm rating the card more on the fact that he is disruptive over the fact that he has the Grand Matala effect. The Grand Matala effect is cute, but the problem is if you've ever played the Grand Matala 1-drop, 2-drop from set 1, you understand the problem where you want people to swing into it. You want people to deal with him to some extent, but there isn't a reason to deal with him, so they just leave him, right? It just becomes I'll play bare necessities, thumbs up, and that's it. So he kind of fits in the same mold. I think he's more of like a 2.5. Is like the only thing that carries him is the bare necessities play, and the fact he's on a body means that you have some retrospect of being able to hit into something and trade to a small extent. But outside of that, there's nothing else really going for the card. So I hope that clears some of my thoughts on that card in particular, because I know a lot of people are quite raving about this card. Captain Hook. So Shift 3, 4, 5. There is a Shift 1. There is a 1. There is a 1. There is a 1-drop. That's good. Once during your turn, whenever an opposing character is damaged, your pirates get +2 power and resist this turn. A 4/5 for 3 on a 5 is good. I'm just going to be honest. That's a good stat line. And the fact that most of the time you're probably not even going to be challenging with him, the likelihood is that what you're doing is you're playing him on 3, you're playing Pete the turn after, you're shifting Pete, and you're just causing havoc. You are kind of forcing your opponent out of the game to deal with your stuff, and yeah, it's not bad. It's annoying, and in a good way, I think. Because you can have Captain Hook, Smee, Captain Hook, Pete, or Gantu, Pete, you know what I mean. You know, that kind of like line of play where you're just forcing your opponent to not play the game a little bit. And it's a good card. It's a solid card. And if you've seen the Enchanted's really nice. I believe it has one of the Enchanted off the top of my head. So yeah. I can see this card being played just primarily because it's this good stat line on a good body, and it's easy to shift into, and the shift target is actually solid. So I can see this being played. The Sultan. So it's Vanish, Um, 5 mana, 5/5. I think this is more of a 2.5 because whenever one of your illusion characters quest, exert chosen opposing character. This is what I wanted for the bodyguard build to give him like reckless or something. The problem with the Sultan is that he doesn't really gain much, if you get what I mean. Like he isn't that beneficial. The reason he's 3 is because he is probably he is a 4 of in the illusion deck, and I think illusions are okay at the moment. Um, I just don't think he is an incredible card. I think when rotation hits, he becomes better. The fact he is an illusion, he is going to get dealt in set 8 quite easily. And also the fact that most of the time with the illusions, Giant Cobra, you're not often going to like immediately trade with Giant Cobra. The reason why Giant Cobra is played and is so good is because of the ditch gain 2 lore. It just helps accelerate the game. And most people who are playing Purple Steel are most likely not going to trade from the get-go. Especially with the fact that it's when one of your illusion characters quests. So you have to have a lot of illusions live, and you have to play a lot of illusions. So I think when rotation hits, this becomes better, but as of right now, it's kind of whatever. Mother Gothel knows what's best. She is a 2-mana 1/3. When you play this character, you may deal 2 damage to another chosen character of yours, and that gains Challenger 1, and when it's banished, return this card to your hand. I like this the more that I have like read it, if you get what I mean. I think this card becomes better and better. In a sense of I read it the first time and went, this card's kind of dog. And then I read it again and went, this card's actually kind of alright. It's a build where this is a build that I want to play and build, but your 1-drops are going to be like the 1/3 things. You deal damage to them, you give them Challenger, and then they swing into something and kill it to gain some benefit. And the fact is that worst case scenario, it's just like a 1/3 for 2, and 3 health things are probably going to live and kind of do really nicely on getting into your mims. The problem with the deck, and I guess this card is probably not going to be ran that much in another Ruby, in like just a box standard Ruby Amethyst list, is that whilst it's cute as like a tech option and probably a 2 of in that like the more competitive build, you're probably not looking at the concept of running like Chernobyls or that kind of lot in if you want to focus on this mechanic. So in a more competitive build, this is going to likely be ran because you can just use it to turn your Elsas or your Mim Foxes into something else. Like damage wise, kill things, return it back, play down, swing again, right? But yeah, that's it's kind of like a weird build. It's a little bit in the middle. I do think. And then Madam Mim Rhino. So when you play this character, banish. She's got the effect of all the other Madam Mims. So you have to banish her or return another chosen character back to your hand. The problem is there's no Madam Mim shift on 1. So if you're playing Ruby Ami, the cool thing about this is that you can go, okay, sure, turn 2, I'll play Mim Snake. Turn 3, I'll play the 1-drop that I've returned back to my hand from Mim Snake, and then I'll also shift onto Rhino and use Rhino to swing into something, and it will probably trade into 2 things. It's a good card. It generally is a good card. And I can see this being ran. I think this is closer to a 4 than it is a 3. But I think you have to be like dead set on running the package of Mim or the snake package. I understand that people obviously Mim Fox is one of the best 3-drops in the entire game, and that will always be a 4 of in purple builds for 99% of the builds. But Madam Mim Rhino, Snake is always maybe or maybe not sometimes, depending on the build that you're running. Ruby Sapphire, as Ruby Amethyst, do run that sometimes. Half of the time it does, half of the time it doesn't. So it makes sense for it for this to be usable in that specific kind of build. So that's why I put it as a 3. I think it does fit in a competitive build. So yeah. Moving on to our next set of cards. So we have the Arthur, the 4-drop 6/6. This is a card that people are buzzing about. I don't think it's crazy good unless you're running like a whole new world, or you're doing your turn 1 Jasmine, turn 2 Jasmine, turn 3. I think some ally of some description or 2 allies of some description. Turn 4 Arthur, turn 5 a whole new world, and you're kind of trying to laugh it off, right? So yeah. So it's a 4-mana 6/6, which quests for 3, and it's inkable, but you skip your draw phase. So the cool thing about this is that the card itself is good stat line, like really good stat line. The downside to it though might be detrimental unless you're able to really like get some outside card draw. It's cool for the Jasmine 5-drop as well. So you can play like the Jasmine 5-drop, the turn after you just quest and you keep kind of questing up with it, which I think is kind of cute. So yeah, there might be an ally build. I think it's in the realm of possibility of actually being playable, but you've got to give it a little bit of time. Get out, banish chosen character, return an item from your discard to your hand. This is a good card for the concept of if something like Lucky Dime gets banished, or you have to banish Lucky Dime early on in the game, you essentially do get some kind of way to get it out, and that isn't just Tamatoa. Obviously, if you're playing Tamatoa, you can banish opposing character. So like turn 6, you play Tamatoa like the legendary. You bring back 2 items. Turn 7, you play Get Out to kill 1 thing. You turn an item back to your hand, and then you just play it for free with Tamatoa. Or if you want to, you can just play the item for free, sack it. This being a Porpsicle, pretty much. Sack the Porpsicle, get it back up, play it again for free from Tamatoa. It's good, and also the fact it banishes a character. It is just a Dragonfire with an additional point, but I think it's quite a good Dragonfire for the fact that it gets you cards that you're probably looking for. It's a one-off in Ruby Sapphire, in my opinion. It's a tech option that people will try out. In more item-centric builds, it kind of becomes that play, if you get what I mean. So yeah. Mulan, Reckless. I thought this had shift. I was talking to a mate and I genuinely thought it had shift. 4 mana, 3/3. During your turn, it gains evasive. Not bad. And it can attack rated characters. Not bad. The problem with the Mulan is that it's a 3, but it's more likely a 2. The reason why it's a 3 is because you turn 3 Li Shang, you turn 4 Mulan, you swing into one thing, you swing into another thing. And the problem with the card in particular is you're wanting to essentially shift into the 5-drop Mulan, either one of them. And it just isn't worth it to shift onto something when this can challenge rated characters. I really, really wish that if you shifted onto another Mulan, that Mulan can attack rated characters with this card, because it would make this card a lot more valuable. This card is probably a 2 of. I think Red Steel have 2 different lines of playing, and I still think that the whole New World, Maui Half-Shark, Robin Hood build does a better job than this. So I just don't see the play for this at the moment, if you get what I mean. And then the last one of... Well, actually, there's some more cards after this one. But Maui Stubborn Trickster. So when this character is banished, choose 1. So put 2 damage counters on all opposing characters. Banish all opposing items. Banish all opposing locations. So a lot of people were very, very excited about this card. I am in the same boat. I think this card's good. I don't think I'm very, very excited for it. It's an annoying card to deal with. It does go, obviously, in the discard build as another annoyance for discard players. The cool thing that I like about it is that it puts damage counters on opposing characters. It doesn't deal damage. So it gets pass resist. which is a good thing actually. It's a very good thing. Um, so I like that. The banishing all items is decent, but the banishing of all opposing locations, getting rid of mana is pretty good. I'm gonna be honest. So yeah, I think this card is good. I think it's a good tech option. It's a one-off. I don't think it's like a four-off. I don't think you build this entire deck around it. I think you throw it in because it's matchup dependent, if you get what I mean, instead of like the vice versa. But I like the versatility that the card has. So yeah. And then for our last two cards, you have Undermine. So chosen opponent discards a card. Chosen card against +2. It's essentially like a 1-for-1 trade where in red, green, you're probably playing something that's going to kill one of your opponent's characters, and then you're probably going to swing with something else. It's cool with Diablo, where you can get Diablo to sing Sudden Chill. You can get this to, make him discard another card. It's essentially another Sudden Chill. And it can be obnoxious, but 8 Sudden Chills in a deck is kind of obnoxious anyway. So yeah, that's pretty much how I see it. I think this is probably ran as a 2-of in Ruby Ruby Emerald decks, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Bernard. So when you play this card, if an ally in play, you draw a card. That's cute. It draws its cards, and the fact is there are 1-drop allies in play. So your turn 1 Jasmine into turn 2 Jasmine into turn 3 playing an ally, which is a 1-drop, like Hey, I guess, and then Bernard to draw another card. It's a good, cute card to have in the ally build. I think ally does have a build for it. Do I think it's there yet? Not exactly. Do I think it's getting close? Yes, yeah, I do think it's getting there. It needs a couple more cards to make it flourish, but it's very, very close to actually being like a viable build to some extent. So that's the reason why Bernard's a 3. I think he is runnable in the ally build, and I think the ally build's pretty good. So yeah. For our 4s, we have a few cards from what I remember. So Into the Unknown. I think this card is sick. I think this card is so good. You can sing it for 3. So if you are playing Blurple exclusively, the idea is that you're going to be playing this with the Bal. Put chosen exerted character into their player's Inkwell face down and exerted. It is a Let It Go for 3, which is solid. Jafar, 5 mana 4/4, quest for 3, so it quests for a lot. When it's character quests, you may draw a card and then discard. If you discard an illusion, you can play the character for 3. People are really hyped about this card. I like this card. I like the fact that you essentially kind of cheat out something that's big. You're probably cheating out Yago for it, but the stat lines are pretty good for it. Kind of a kill on sight card, I'd say. Rhino. Well, sorry, Hades, Ruthless Tyrant. When you play this character and when he quests, this is relevant. You may deal 2 damage to another chosen character to draw 2 cards. So this, well, it's a chosen character of yours. So this card in and of itself is not incredible, but there is a Maleficent Legendary which really, really likes this card. Where you just deal 2 damage to Maleficent, you draw 2 cards and move that 2 damage from Maleficent to one of your opponent characters. So it's kind of like doing like a draw 2 on a what's the name of the card? It's, Teeth and Ambitions, like a 2-drop action, and you kind of just throw it on to another character, which is cute. And when he quests as well is a good thing. I do like the fact that when he quests, this is relevant as well. I think there is a build where you start damage manipulation and you just move damage from one character to another, and it makes sense why it's good, and that's pretty much it really. Then you have a 4-drop Rhino, 4/3 shift 2. This is a big part of it. Whilst this character has no damage, he gains resist 2 and he quests for 2. So it's slightly worse than Queen, in some retrospect. It's slightly better than Queen in some retrospect. So I think there are some builds in Steel Song which do work with this, but it's not heavy. Like, this is a tech option. The second that rotation hits, though, this card becomes really good. Because this is like your turn 1 into turn 2 play. I don't think there's like any other notion where you just play this, it lives for a couple of turns easily without really taking damage, and your opponent has to just live with that. So yeah, it's a good card. It's a good card that lives and is really good at rotation, hence why it's a 4 instead of like a 3. And when it hits rotation, I think it becomes very close to a 5, because I think it's an auto include in Amber Steel, and I wouldn't be surprised if Amber Steel does well post rotation, because those 2 colors are already pretty damn good. So yeah. The last few cards, Lumiere's. Apologies about Lumiere. Jasmine. So it's a 4-cost 2/5 shift for 2. So we have a 1-drop shift from what I remember. We have a couple of 2 1-drop shifts, which are Jasmine, which is good. Whenever this character quests, look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You may put an ally character into your hand, and from those 3 cards, put the rest onto the bottom in any order. Yeah, every single turn you're just essentially going to gain a lore and plus a card. I think this essentially draws you 2 cards in the long run, if I'm going to be brutally honest, because it'll probably die by turn 4. But no, this card's like actually quite solid. So yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think it's a solid like card for ally, and I think people are going to get annoyed by seeing turn 1 this, turn 1 Jasmine, turn 2 Jasmine, and then that Jasmine could just be like, oh, I'm just going to sing Along Came Zeus to kill one of your characters, or quest to plus bit by bit, and she's good at keeping the deck going, if you get what I mean. So yeah, Mushu, who is an ally actually, funny enough. 6 mana 4/6 is inkable, shift for 4. When you play another character, the game rush, reckless, and evasive. So they have to attack, they have to swing, and they can also swing into evasive characters. This is really good. This is genuinely really solid. Probably kills multiple things, or helps kills multiple things. Doesn't proc of himself, obviously. And he's just a good stat line. 4/6 is kind of annoying, especially on 4. There's a shift on. There is a 3-drop Mushu as well, so the 3-drop Mushu will have to be played. But I think this kind of makes up for more than that. And it also gives the line for red steel to really utilize using the Mulan shift line. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. Lumiere. This card in and of itself is a win con, and this is the reason why I put it as a 4, because it's a 5-drop inkable 4/3 shift on 3. We have a Lumiere for 2 anyway. I think we have 2 Lumieres on 2. One gives power to all of the units. Then we have the other one from the previous thing in Ruby. When one of your items is banished, this character can quest for 1 more this turn, or gains 1 more this turn. Yeah, this is solid. So there is the what's the action called? Royal Tantrum, where the idea is that you just play a bunch of items, you play this and quest up for like 12 or something, like not 12. I'm being over exaggerating. Probably like 4, probably 5, and you draw 3 cards. So yeah, this just makes a win con, especially as you move into rotation, because Royal Tantrum's like set 5. So that's good. It's a solid starting to a deck. Do I think it's a viable deck? I don't think it's tier 1. I think it's around. I think it's probably like the middle of the pack tier 2 deck at the current point of play. But I do think it's slowly getting there. We'll get there eventually. It's gotta be soon. So yeah. And then the last one, I love this card. Go Tamago. Shift for 4. So it's a 4-drop that shifts for 4, which is a little bit confusing if you think about it. But then you realize this could be really good really quickly. It has evasive, so it maintains its evasive from the previous Go Tamagos. When you play this character, if you use a shift to player, you may put chosen character into their inkwell and face down and exert it. So it's a let it go on a body. The reason why it's a shift for 4 on 4 is because if you were to play this on 3, holy moly, the like turn swing that you get from this is actually insane. Because you just go play this on 3. You have the like the 2-drop Go Go Tamago that puts the top card of your deck face down exerted uh into your inkwell. So you ramp up, to 4, and if you want to, you can just send. If your opponent's playing a slow deck, you can just send this into the deck, into your inkwell if you want to, and then the turn after you just go bend to my will, and your opponent doesn't really have much chance to play around that. So I'm glad it's on a 4 instead of a 3. It makes perfect balance sense. Um, it's solid. It's a good card. It's really, really good. I think it's kind of like one of the 2 cards in the build for Floodborn, which makes it worth running and testing. Like it's this and the hero are like the 2 cards that make that work, and this is up there. So I kind of do agree with this being like a really good card. But yeah, and then for my 5 drops, I've only got 2, and it should be pretty obvious by now if you understand what I'm like. It's Lady and Tramp. These cards are so good. So Lady, Decisive Dog, 0/3. When you play a character, this character gains +1 power this turn, and when it has 3 or more power, she gains +2 lore. So 1 mana inkable, by the way. So if you don't know, Churner Dog already plays a Lady, which is like an uninkable 1/2. That if you have a tramp in play, you you get the ability to quest for 1 more. And yeah, sure, over time that is probably better than this Lady, in all retrospect. The thing is though, in the build, if you literally go turn 1 Lady, turn 2 Daisy Duck Tramp, give Lady power, and then quest for 3, you're kind of laughing. Because of the fact that it's just so oppressive super early, and your opponent has to deal with that. Like, quest for 3, then quest up to 7, then just go fast. Churner Dog's getting a lot of really good support, and this is like one of the cards that help it. I think this is probably the 2nd best card in the set. I think it's probably like really, really close to being the best card in the set. It's up there. But the best card in the set is obviously this Tramp. This Tramp is so powerful. So it's a 6 mana 2/8 that can only be ran in green and yellow, but that's fine because it's that's the build that it wants to be running anyway. There's a build that works around it. It's a shift 4, and during your opponent's turn, when one of your characters is banished, you may draw a card. So the good thing about this is that it also works off itself. So if it's banished itself, you get to draw a card. Churner Dog as a deck, as a zoo deck. If you don't know what zoo is, it's just flooding the board and then controlling board state because you are playing multiple characters. Churner Dog wants characters to die. So when it hits the banishment zone, you just keep drawing cards. You can even just sit on this on certain decks, because 8 is not an easy stat line. 8 is not an easy health line to kill. And shifting on 4 is really good for an 8 health. If you just want to like quest for this, you just say screw it, let's go. If your opponent brawls it, you draw a card off it. You've just made your opponent waste a brawl. This card has so much potential behind it, and I think it's very scary. I think it's like probably it's immediate 4. This card is like, you run this as a 4, you just go straight in, and you kind of wish to see what your opponent does to answer this. But yeah, no, that's pretty much it. That's like what I think is easily the best card in this entire set. And I hope others agree with me on this one. I can see other people just disagreeing with me on this one. But with the fact that Churner Dog is like a tier 1 deck, or just off the cusp of tier 1, and we have multiple cards which will easily push it into tier 1, maybe even like a potential tier 0. I don't think it is a potential tier 0, but the deck itself is going to be very powerful very quickly. I think that this card just kind of facilitates it, right? So that's good. I'm so glad that Churner Dog got some card draw. It's really funny that you can just have like two of these out and just be like, oh, let's draw 2 cards every single time one of my characters dies. Oh, let's play a Chernobog. Let's go. Easy. So yeah. And yeah, that's all the cards. don't really know what else to say. Future coming here, and one, apologies about a couple of the yawns about the video. I was very tired, still am. This is a few days after when I realized that something I did in my last video that I want to do in this video as well is essentially rank my top 5 cards of the set, roughly. And this is a mixture of what I think will be competitively viable and sometimes just what I think are really cool cards. I might, like, in the future just mix them up at some point, but we'll have to get to that at some point. So, at number 5, Most Everyone's Mad here, I think is very, very good. I believe that's a card that a lot of people will probably really, really like, and eventually Dragonfire will be replaced by it. Dragonfire is only used in one build, but I can see in a slower format that this becomes really, really good. Moving on from that, in my number 4 spot, it'll be Beyond the Horizon, especially during set 8. Set 8 is going to be really... I think the thing with Steel Song is very, very good right now. If you know anything that I do, I play a lot of Steel Song, and I will be doing a guide for it because I think it'll be fun. It'll be fun to do. I think that Steel Song in general is going to really like Beyond the Horizon. I think this card is also going to really like Beyond the Horizon, but I think Steel Song probably utilizes it more. And also, if you have a turn 5 or turn 4 hand wipe into making your opponent only have 3 cards in hand, so your opponent kind of discards 4, quote unquote, yeah, that's incredible. Within number 3, it will be Lady, pretty obviously. I think Lady's very, very close to being second, but the only reason being is because she kind of only fits into one deck at the moment, and I think that is currently the best deck in format, which is, well, it's not currently the best deck in format. I think it is going to be one of the best decks in format, very, very close to one of the best decks in format. And I think outside of it, it only really slots into one deck, which is the Chernodog deck. In other builds, it's always going to be an aggressive card. That's all it really is. And worst case scenario, you just ink it, and sometimes you just trade with it. I've already explained the card a few times. I would say it's my number 3 slot. My number 2 slot, you would think that I would put Nothing We Won't Do there, seeing as I really, really hyped up the card and, you know, everything in between it, when actually, no, that's not the case. The card that I personally think is going to be number 2, or one of the best cards in the set, is Into the Unknown. I think having an inkable Let It Go is very, very good. Especially in a color where its only removal is essentially being able to put cards into Inkwell via Let It Go and the Hades Legendary. I think it just replaces Let It Go, obviously, for Blurple, but I do think there is a chance that it gets put into other slots as well. So that's very cool. If I was debating between this and Rhino, but I think Rhino's only good after set rotation. So I would say Rhino goes from like what I thought would be maybe second place because of how good Steel Song probably would be during set 8 to like probably 6th or 7th best card in the set. And then the last one is, well, number 1 is pretty obvious, it's Tramp. Tramp is very, very good. Tramp is very good in a aggressive deck anyway, and in a zoo deck, and even outside of the zoo deck, it's very, very good. If you don't know what I mean, Chernodog is going to be very, very, very powerful in the next set. It's got a lot of tools, and it's got a lot of stuff that's needed for it to kind of flourish. The only problem it did have was card draw, and good card draw, because you're only relying on Rapunzel and being able to play correctly, right? And not overextending, unless you're just going, okay, I'm going to get lucky, slam down the current big Tramp, and then draw a bunch, discard a bunch, and then play Chernobog, right? Tramp giving you card draw is very, very good, and on a body that you're probably going to quest with, sure, but sometimes you don't need to even quest with it. You can just keep him there and let your opponent have to deal with the rest of your board, and you just draw cards back up and keep going. So yeah, I think Tramp's really good. I think Tramp is easily the best card in the set. So yeah, and yeah, that should be everything. That should pretty much give you an understanding of what my personal opinion is. And I hope to see you in the next video when I'm hopefully not yawning as much as this one.